themselves, each other, and the clock in a 24-hour marathon that is recognized as the toughest sports car race on the planet. Welcome to the 1909 edition of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Daytona Speed Week's 1999 is officially underway, and ESPN Speed World is proud to welcome you to Daytona International Speedway. You are on the grid for the 37th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. It's become a tradition here at the Rolex that the grandstands are sparsely filled, but the infield is packed because that's where you want to be for what is not just a great race, but a great event in sports, the Rolex 24. The action is down in the pit lane, and there is Marty Reed.
It's Super Bowl weekend, and this is the Super Bowl of North American sports car endurance racing. We have got a grid that's so long, if I showed you every car, it would extend for over a quarter of a mile. 78 entries, 327 drivers, over 12 different marks. But it's not just a field of quantity. There's plenty of quality as well. For more on that, here's Bill Weber.
They are the faces synonymous with winning, champions from different worlds competing for the same prize. Maybe you're not a sports car racing fan, that's okay. Maybe you're a NASCAR or IndyCar fan. So maybe it's hard to grasp the impact and importance of the 24 hours of Daytona. Well, let me tell you a few men that can explain it to you. Jimmy Vasser, Danny Sullivan, Ernie Irvan, Max Pappas, Scott Sharp, Arie Luyendyk, Ron Fellows, Dorsey Schrader, all here, all in cars expected to compete and could win in their class. And that's just a partial list of familiar names in an all-star field with international flavor. There is so much talent and potential here that a race fan couldn't hope to see any more in one place, in one time, and any other location. And they're all here for one reason, to try and survive and conquer auto racing's most vicious enemy, the 24-hour endurance test. Now to our anchor location and your hosts, Bob Varsha and Jeremy Dale.
All right, thanks very much, Bill. Let's add our welcome. And hello, everyone. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Jeremy Dale. And Jeremy, once again, the hair starts to rise on the back of your neck as you watch that gleaming field of cars down there in the pit lane. And the consensus seems to be this is as good a field as we have seen for many years here.
Well, I think Marty and Bill really hit the nail on the head. Not only do we have a lot of cars, but the quality, the depth in this field is the best we've seen it in many, many years.
Well, we can say this about a 24-hour race. It takes so much commitment, so much logistical effort, and so much emotion that it's almost always a great race. But I'll tell you this, it's going to be tough to top the event we watched here last year. A year ago, Daytona witnessed the realization of a dream for Giampiero Moretti. After 14 years of trying to win the Rolex 24, including the epic 96 race in which his team came home second in the closest finish in race history, the Italian and his superstar driving partners threw off their bridesmaids' reputation and won an emotional victory in their Ferrari over their arch rivals from Ford. In a fairy tale ending, Moretti sprayed the champagne and declared he had driven his last Rolex 24. This year is a new race and a new chapter in one of sports car racing's greatest rivalries, Ford versus Ferrari. 8 Fords in all, booming 5-liter V8s, and 5 Ferraris with their classic high-revving V12s. And this race could be another one for the record books, Jeremy.
That's right, Bob. The Can-Am cars are the stars of the show, and the Ferrari and Ford ranks have split victory here at Daytona the last 2 years. These teams will be working very hard in 1999 to bring victory home.
New rules have made the Fords and Ferraris more competitive than ever. And keep in mind, there are Chevys and Mazdas in the Can-Am field as well. The biggest field of Can-Am cars ever, 21 strong. Each one ready to go twice around the clock.
For this Ferrari, a new car, new owner, new tire manufacturer, but several familiar names. Maribaldi, Didier Taze, and 2-time Indy 500 winner and Rolex 24-hour winner Arie Luyendyk, hoping to defend their win here from 1 year ago. But to do that, they have to overcome 2 hurdles. One is the new ownership. The second is an inlet restrictor designed to rob this high-speed bullet of some of its horsepower. But back is Kevin Doran, who last year engineered a win here in the Rolex 24. And in 1986 and 87, quarterbacked the great Al Holbert to back-to-back wins here in the Rolex. Arie Luyendyk will retire from competitive racing later this year. But right now, you're focused on winning here. What do you have to do in the next 24 hours to successfully defend your title?
Pretty much the same we did last year, run a conservative pace, yet fast enough to keep you up front and within the hunt. And I think we have maybe even a better chance of winning than last year because the car handles better, the brakes are better, and obviously they've worked on the reliability of this car as the year went on last year. So we're looking pretty good, and besides battling the flu all week, I feel better today, so we should have a good race ahead of us.
Best of luck to you.
All right, thank you.
10 years ago, Arie Luyendyk won the 12 Hours of Sebring. Only two men have won the 12 Hours of Sebring, the 24 Hours of Daytona, and the Indianapolis 500. Arie Luyendyk and A.J. Foyt.
But the guys they're going to have to beat, the Dyson Racing Ford team. James Weaver, during qualifying, put the car on the pole with one of those perfect laps by 1.2 seconds. And this wasn't even supposed to be the car that was to get the pole.
No, we were doing all the race running in this car, and we hoped the 20 car would be on pole. But we had some new tires from Goodyear, and the grip was just phenomenal.
Well, the team said the driver was pretty phenomenal, too.
That's very nice of them.
Let's talk about strategy here, because with the rule changes, you don't have to run these Ford pushrod V8s quite as hard as you used to.
No, now they put restrictors on it, pulled the horsepower back down, and restrained the Ferraris and brought them more in line to what everybody else has got.
Well, speaking of all that horsepower, guys, let's take a look at what Can-Am's all about. We'll explain what this restrictor system has done for the Fords and Ferraris.
The stars of the show are the open cockpit Can-Am cars, reviving an old name in sports car racing with a new twist, very high tech.
Well, these Can-Am cars are very high-tech, and there's some new wrinkles in the rules this year, and those are the inlet restrictors on the Can-Am cars. There you see it on the Dyson car. Those will rob horsepower, but they're definitely hurting the Ferraris more than the Ford-powered cars.
The Ferraris are high revving. They've lost some of the top end, perhaps 50 horsepower. The Ford V8s get their horsepower lower in the rev range, thus they haven't been hurt as much. But the cars are remarkably similar on the racetrack, running within tenths of a second of one another at speeds reaching 190. Here's a look at the grid in the Can-Am class only. We'll show you the overall starting grid later on, but there are 21 Can-Am cars here, not just Ferraris and Fords. 10 different chassis and engine combinations, Jeremy.
Including a new Lola chassis, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But now that the super high-tech GT1 cars are gone, you are most definitely going to see a Can-Am car in Victory Lane on Sunday.
Among the many anniversaries being celebrated this weekend, it was 30 years ago that a Lola powered by a Chevrolet won this race. Neither has won since. That could change this weekend. We'll be back. The GT2 class rivals the Can-Am field for star-studded driver lineups. And like the Can-Ams, the focus of the class is on a factory rivalry. Dodge versus the all-new Chevy Corvettes.
And Bob, this Chevy Corvette is a factory-backed, factory-designed team, and they've been testing this car for almost a year. Top secret testing, that is. Ron Fellows did all the development. Just a phenomenal effort here from General Motors with this new Corvette.
They are the new kids on the block, and they're taking on the defending Le Mans 24-hour class-winning Dodge Vipers, who made their debut a half dozen years ago here at the Rolex 24.
You want to talk about brand loyalty? Ask a Corvette fan about coming to this race. When GM made the announcement, the home office was inundated with letters. The Corvette Club is out in force. Over 150 of them did a parade lap just a few moments ago around the Daytona Speedway. And the guy who not only has to win for his team, but has to carry all of that tradition is Ron Fellows, along with Scott Sharp and everybody else. And no pressure here, is there?
No, I am really proud to be part of the program. You know, when Herb Fischel first talked to me about it in September of '97, I got goosebumps. I mean, this has just been terrific, and to be part of this from the ground up. You know, everybody at GM Motorsports, Pratt & Miller, the Corvette Group, Goodyear. This has been a huge thrill, and you know, we're proud that we've got a pretty fast car here, and hopefully we'll get to the end of this.
I got to ask you real quickly, why start at a 24-hour endurance race? I mean, there's a lot of things that could go wrong.
You're absolutely right. You know, it couldn't be a tougher race anywhere in the world, we don't think. But, you know, we feel like we're prepared, and it's time to race this car.
Well, the guys they've got to beat, at least in the early going, are the Dodge Vipers. And with that story, here's Bill Weber.
Well, the press release screams that this is a 24-hour test for Chrysler with about 300 of their closest friends. You see, the Viper won at Le Mans last year, and they want to go back and successfully defend in 1999. So they're calling this spring training, an exhibition game in Florida where their fastball's already clocked in at about 190 miles an hour. But in reality, the Viper is here to try and shut out that shiny Corvette while hoping to hit a home run by winning back-to-back 24-hour races. David Donohue was part of that driving team that won at Le Mans. He turned 32 years old 3 weeks ago. David, this ride was really hastily put together late in the game. Are you guys here to run this race, or are you here to win it?
Well, as competitors, all the drivers and the team would like to win the race. But our posture has been and continues to be that we're running a test here. We've got a variety of customer parts that we're developing that we couldn't fit into our regular test program, the shocks and the Michelin tires, so on and so forth. So in that regard, we're running a test plan, but the crew's going to do everything they can to keep the car out there for the entire 24 hours. And, you know, if we end up in the winner's circle, that's all the better for all of us.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you. I'd like to say hi to my wife, Jody, and little boy, Mark, as well.
Well, earlier we talked about the emotion of the Moretti win here 1 year ago. Well, 30 years ago, David's dad, Mark, won the Rolex 24. If David could duplicate that feat this weekend, there wouldn't be a dry eye in Daytona. And he would certainly share victory lane with his 14-month-old son, Mark Donohue.
Thanks, Bill. No question about it. That would be a great moment. Here's a look at the class grid in GT2. Once again, just the GT2 cars. They'll be scattered among the Can-Ams, the GT3s, and GTT cars that you'll meet a little later on in the program. The field is dominated by Porsches, the winningest brand in Daytona history, along with those 3 Vipers, 2 Corvettes, and 1 very exotic Chevy-powered Marcos LM600.
Yeah, the American cars, they're the quickest, but the Porsches will be there at the end, and they're going to be ready to pick up the pieces of that Corvette Viper battle up front.
Lots more to tell you about. We'll take a break and return with the GT3 class here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're on the grid. Don't go away. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Just minutes from the command to start engines for the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Beginning at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll have 3 hours of live coverage, and then we'll be back at 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning to carry you all the way through the finish, 6 full hours of coverage and beyond. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Now, the third of our 4 classes of cars racing this year's Rolex 24 is the GT3. Let's take a closer look at those cars. The GT3 class has proven time and again over the years that the smaller displacement cars often produce the best races. Why else would NASCAR Winston Cup star Ernie Irvan and former World Sports Car champion Hans Stuck join in? It helps to have hot shoes on your side when you are the 2-time defending class champions from BMW and you are outgunned 19 cars to 5 by Porsche.
Well, it is a Porsche BMW fight in GT3, though there are some other cars, some Ferraris, some Mazdas, some Nissans, but these are the cars that will be fighting for the lead in GT3, and they're very different cars.
The classic swoopy lines of the Porsche 911 and its flat-6 engine going up against the 4-door, shall we say, more boxy aerodynamic treatment of the BMW M3 and its straight-6 motor. Plenty of mechanical diversity and always a great race in GT3. Now let's get back to that business of Ernie Irvan and Hans Stuck. A good old boy and a man from the Bavarian Alps. That could lead to some communication problems. Marty Reed took a closer look.
Let me introduce you to Oscar Madison and Felix Unger of the Rolex 24. This is definitely the odd couple team. Hans Stuck, Ernie Irvan, European style racing, NASCAR Winston Cup. I want to know what the communication's like.
Communication is great.
He likes to drive in the rain and the dark. You don't want any part of it.
That's exactly right.
Let's talk a little bit about terminology. What would you say on the radio if the engine just lets go?
I was saying, Jesus Christ, the engine is finished. I come in a bit.
What would it be in NASCAR lingo?
It thing with...
When the car is not handling right, 2 characteristics, what do you call it?
I say somebody has done something severely wrong. It's whether oversteer or understeer or a tire is flat. So pits, get ready, I'm coming in.
I have no idea what oversteer and understeer is. I figure it's either loose or tight.
But you got to learn how to say it right.
Guys, the car is tight.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I teach them yodeling now. You know, when I won a race so far, I was yodeling. You wanna give me a try?
Here we go. Okay. Is this going to be the beep?
Well, as you can see, we can't guarantee whether they're going to be victorious, but we can guarantee we're going to have a heck of a good time back here.
I'm going to do exactly what these sporty car chaps do. I'm going to the motorhome.
All right, thanks, guys. That's a lighter look at the problem of drivers from different nationalities, languages, and racing series all sharing one car. But there is a strong technical challenge there as well. Competing styles call for compromises, and that's the job of the car owner. On Thursday, Tom Milner gathered his boys.
Where we are right now, wherever we are, 4th or 5th or something, that's where we wanted to be. Okay, today. Tomorrow is a different day. So don't get yourself mind all scrambled because, Jesus, you know, we're only 4th fastest or 5th or wherever we are. We're not in the top 3. This is where we wanted to be. Tomorrow's a different day. It's new motors. It's a whole different story. So don't eat yourself up because, Jesus Christ, we already lost the race. We haven't done anything like that. You know, we're still in the same position that we always have been. This is we're the favorites to win the race. Just because we're not fastest doesn't matter. Because in a way, we designed it that way. Okay, so.
Well, it truly has to be a team effort. For example, Team Seattle, the Porsches from Alex Job Racing, are the underdog in GT3. The Atlanta Falcons to the Beamer's Denver Broncos. Less star power. But when they put this car on the pole, their Porsche 911, they were excited. And patience and the Porsche's trademark durability could be the key to beating the favorite BMW boys. If they hang tough, Falcon fans could see 2 upsets in Florida on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right, thanks very much, Bill. A Porsche is on pole in the GT3 category, but the BMW M3 machinery is right there as well. 31 cars in all in GT3, the best subscribed category in the race this weekend. There's also Mazdas, a privateer Corvette effort, Nissans, and more.
But you heard Tom Milner say, we are the favorites, and he's really pumping those guys up, and it's very clear who's in charge of that team. All those antics, that's just showmanship. These guys are very serious.
No question about it. The 2-time defending champions from BMW looking to make it a 3-peat here at Daytona International Speedway. We'll be back. We're just moments from the command to start engine and then the green flag for 24 hours of racing at Daytona. Don't go away. The twice around the clock sports car marathon known as the Rolex 24 at Daytona. For a precious few, there will be the thrill and the emotion of rolling into victory lane. But this race is not all about big budgets, factory cars, and superstar drivers. There is a class for every man, and every man has his own dreams.
Grand Marshal of 1999, Rolex at Daytona, Mr. Danny Sullivan.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Start your engines.
Have a great race.
Say hello to the GTT class. This class is designed to allow the average guy to get a shot at racing in the Rolex 24. Now, saying these racers are average guys is a little like saying Clark Kent had a decent right hook. But it's all relative. For $600,000, you can rush out and buy a Can-Am car. Another $125,000, you can put a motor in it. And you're going to need tires, too. And GTT, about $25,000 can get you started. It gets you the car, the power, and the shot at making a dream come true, qualifying for the 24 hours of Daytona. Certainly not cheap, but it's a bargain in the racing business. And if your dream comes true, it's worth every cent. Marty?
Well, we talked about those dreams being fulfilled by Jean-Pierre Moretti last year. Years ago in GTU, a guy by the name of Dick Greer won the championship in that division, became the oldest until a guy by the name of Paul Newman at age 70 broke your record. Now you're back again. But you still got a little time, don't you?
Well, I got to keep practicing until I'm 70. I got a couple more years. I get a fast car here pretty soon.
Age 67, what do you think here in this GTT class? Can you win?
Well, anybody can win in this race. You know, it's how well the guys handle the car and stay out of trouble.
At age 67, Dick Greer's not ready to give up yet, and won't be surprised if we see him in victory lane fulfilling another dream, guys.
Of course not, Marty, because as I said, every man has lives his dream, and one dream is going to be realized in this very small and brand new GTT category.
And Bob, these are the cars and drivers that duke it out week in and week out in the SCCA regional and national levels, and this class has given them the opportunity to come to Daytona and be in the big show.
You heard Danny Sullivan give the command to start engines. For the first time in history, both Grand Marshal and active competitor at the same time. We'll be back with the starting grid and the green.
Never had one of these before. No.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway. Cars are on track, anticipating the green flag for the 37th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Here's how they line up. Record qualifying speeds in the GT2 and GTT category. Let's get final comments before the green, beginning with Marty Reed.
Just found out from the Dyson Racing Camp, they had a problem this morning in the power steering assembly. When they pulled it apart, they found a rock inside. They also had 2 other gremlins on Friday, a crank trigger and a throwout bearing. They're hoping that all their little mechanical woes are done and that the pole-sitting car will fly. Let's go to Bill Weber.
I got one word for you, traffic. When they drop the green flag on this race, this 3.5-mile track is going to look like the mall parking lot the day after Christmas, and everybody wants that spot right by the door. Sometimes it's a clown in a fancy sports car that passes you and get the spot. Sometimes you get stuck behind my grandmother and somebody else gets the spot. Sometimes you can't tell how fast the other guy's going, then it's crunch time. There will be a lot of traffic on this racetrack, and you watch. One of the favorites will be a casualty because of it. You have to be very patient, but this is Daytona, and patience for this race means an extra 30 seconds waiting for the caterer to refresh your Chardonnay.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. You're riding with some of the drivers who'll be carrying our onboard cameras during the battle to come. 3 hours today, 6.5 hours tomorrow, all of it live here on ESPN2. Jeremy Dale, you've been in the cockpit of a race car anticipating the start. What's going through the driver's mind?
Well, a lot of these guys have been thinking about, last year, and they've been thinking about this race since last year and how they were going to put their package together to come back this year and get victory. And it is just a phenomenal feeling early on in the season here to come to Daytona. Is such a big race, such a big event. I always enjoy, especially the first hour when all these guys up front are really going for it.
Super Bowl Sunday in the American football milieu, if you will. This is the Super Bowl of sports car racing. 78 cars from around the world, untold thousands of man-hours for a year preparing for this moment. For some of them, there will be despair and discouragement. For others, the thrill and the emotion of a ride into victory lane at Daytona International Speedway. And we'll be with you for much of the way. We're going to take a quick dip to black at the end of our program. No commercial. We'll be right back for the green flag. I'm Bob Varsha for Marty Reed, for Bill Weber, and for Jeremy Dale. Stand by for the start of the 37th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Coming up on the Revs, the green flag awaits this time around. Stand by. We'll be right back to Daytona International Speedway. Typical Daytona Beach, Florida day. The world's greatest sports car brands have gathered 78 strong for the 37th running of one of the greatest events in sports, the most difficult sports car race in the world. Through the day, through the night, and then through the day. 24 hours, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. I'm Bob Varsha, along with Jeremy Dale, Bill Weber, and Marty Reed are in the pit lane. Live from Daytona International Speedway, James Weaver in a Ford-powered Riley and Scott Can-Am chassis is on pole. Didier Taze and a Ferrari 333 SP alongside, and behind them 76 more entries. More than 330 drivers from all walks of life. Some are professionals, some are just living their dream of coming to Daytona to race this event. So much tradition, so much history, so many anniversaries. 40 years ago this weekend, the first car to turn a lap at speed at the then brand new Daytona International Speedway. was a Chevrolet Corvette. And this weekend, Chevrolet has returned with a factory Corvette effort to race the Rolex 24. The field begins to gather up, 2 by 2. Each driver with his or her own thoughts about what it took to get here and what is about to unfold for each of them. The Chevy Corvette pace car with Desiree Wilson at the controls pulls off. James Weaver with a Ferrari at his elbow, headlights on, into the tri-oval area. Flagman Dean Reed has the green. It waves. James Weaver into the lead, the start of the 37th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Through turn 1 for the first of perhaps 650 laps of this 3.56 mile combined NASCAR oval and infield road course. And look at the size of this field. Gleaming in the sunlight, each car a potential winner as of this moment. Oh, we've got smoke and cars off the racetrack down in the infield. Looks like brake smoke, tire smoke, not an engine problem.
Well, those pace laps are not very fast because they have to gather up all these race cars. So obviously very cold tires. You can see James Weaver there legging out a bit of a lead. That's actually the Lola up into second place. And I believe Lammers is the driver who started that Lola. We'll have to check on that. I saw Alan McNish in the number 7 Ferrari, who started third, moved up to second in the first corner, but this Lola is moving up. And there's McNish coming back around the Lola. That Lola powered by a Lotus.
Alan McNish, one of the reigning champions of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving with Wayne Taylor, a former winner of this race. James Weaver out in front. Then the Ferrari, and then that unique Lola chassis. The Lola hasn't won here for 30 years, and that's a uniquely powered engine. A twin-turbo Lotus engine as we watch the battle on the 32-degree banking at Daytona. The second Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford chassis in red, white, and blue. And ahead of them, a Ferrari in Ferrari red. Lap 1 is complete.
And James Weaver certainly setting quite a pace here and setting the tone for these Ferrari teams. Running very quick out of the box. There you see that Lola. Ferrari followed by the number 20. That is the Dyson team's car.
Back up to Didier Taze, a Belgian who has perhaps more miles in these Ferraris. Oh, the Lola underneath. Jan Lammers, the Dutchman, getting after it early in this race.
And this is a car that James Weaver tested last October at Road Atlanta, and he had glowing reviews about this chassis. They tested it with Ford power, and it was actually quicker than their Riley and Scott chassis. They elected to come to Daytona because the Riley and Scott was a known quantity, but look at the horsepower difference here with the Ferrari.
Lammers up high, down low is Taze. Lammers sharing with car owner Franz Conrad and Italian Vincenzo Suspiri, who was the reigning ISRS champion in sports car racing with these very cars in Europe. Tremendous driving talent up and down the 78 entries in this race. One of the best driving lineups we've seen in years from all forms of motorsport. On board now with our GT2 class leader, the Dodge Viper. V10 power in this car, which came over from Europe, put on the track by the factory-assisted Oreca team from France, running in 15th place in the overall right now.
And that's where we would expect to see these cars right now. Of course, these cars will certainly move up into the top 10, maybe even the top 5. Probably not quick enough to challenge for the overall lead, but they are very, very quick cars. This is the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Ferrari Lola Turbo Lotus And Riley and Scott Ford, a classic example of the kind of mechanical diversity we see every year here at the Rolex 24. 4 classes of cars in competition. The big Can-Am open cockpit cars. We're seeing 3 beautiful examples of those right there. GT2 and GT3, the production-based categories, and GTT, a new category for tube frame race cars, basically Trans Am cars from that great SCCA series. But those are sprint race cars. Here, they're going to try to take them 24 hours.
And boy, that Lola, very frisky in the infield, very good coming out of those slow corners, very good on the brakes. But again, here's the Ford-powered Riley and Scott, and it looks like it's got the legs on the straightaway as well.
Tires now fully up to temperature. Lammer's down low, not only a former winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but also a former winner of this race back in 1990. When he won with the Walkinshaw Racing Jaguar team.
And look at the leaders now already into lap traffic here. And that is one of the most difficult parts about Daytona is the lap traffic, especially for the Can-Am cars, but also very difficult for the GT3 cars, because half the time you're driving looking in your rearview mirrors.
This is the chicane area at the end of the backstretch, also known as the bus stop after the famous chicane at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, which actually is a bus stop in day-to-day life. But not here at Daytona International Speedway. More shuffling of positions high on the banking.
And did you see them go by that Ferrari? Oh, we've got a car making its way to pit lane.
And we've got one off on the infield. Car number 22. Running in the GT3 category, and that is a sister car to our pole sitter in the class. Car number 28, a Can-Am entry on the pit lane.
And the 28 car is also a Lola, one of these new Lolas. Also, this is Ford power now, so this is very different from the Conrad car. This is the Intersport car, and this is definitely an unscheduled early stop. Marty is in pit lane. Let's go down to Marty.
Well, the team of John Field, Ryan Jones, Mike Shank, and Sam Hornish Jr. have got a problem here, and it looks like they are going to top the car off with fuel. They're looking towards the rear end, and it looks now like the back end and bonnet is going to be coming off, so this is going to be an extended stay. So our first pit stop of the day, and this is certainly not one to be proud of, goes to the number 28 team.
Tough break for John Field, an experienced sports car racer. He has been here before.
And keep in mind, this is the debut of this Lola chassis, even though they seem to be looking up under the airbox there, up into the induction system. Maybe it's a throttle linkage problem or something like that. But this is the debut for this Lola chassis, so we expect problems for these cars. Go back to the lead.
You had a good look in the air scoop there, the trumpets for the air restrictors that are used to try to equate the performance of the cars and make for a level playing field as our leader, James Weaver, dives down into turn 1.
And he's coming up on some traffic very quickly here. We're going to get a real good opportunity to watch these guys work their way through these slower GT2 and GT3 cars.
There's Didier Tays, who went to victory lane a year ago with his teammates Ari Leyendijk, Mauro Baldi, and Dr. Jean-Piero Moretti. Moretti retired on the spot after 14 years of trying to win this race. He won it in his 15th and then waved goodbye. But the other 3 drivers of that winning team are back together in that car this year.
This is on board with Alan McNish through the kink in the infield. Very quick, flat in 5th gear, although not when you're going side by side with a GT3 car. There's a GT3 car. He'll go underneath that car. And look at what he has to deal with. This, from this point on, this is constant. He'll probably never drive. The rest of this race will probably never drive a clean lap without passing back markers.
What a year Alan McNish had last year. The Scottish driver not only won Le Mans overall, he also won the GT1 division of this race a year ago, driving with Danny Sullivan and others in a Porsche.
And those were the high-tech GT1 cars. The USRRC has abandoned that class primarily for cost reasons. And so the GT2 cars kind of take over in terms of high-tech production cars.
On board the number 74 Can-Am machine with Chevrolet V8 power under the hood. This is another team with a tremendous driver lineup.
George Robinson, of course, involved. This is his team, George Robinson's team. Campaigned in Trans Am for many years. John Gooding is in this car. Jack Baldwin is in this car, and Irv Hare.
And they have a big double handful of road racing championships between them. Robinson driving the car right now. Taking a look back. There's another battle about 5 or 6 seconds back, I would guess. Enormous tremendous G-forces up on this 32-degree banking. 2.5, 3 Gs as they fly around at speeds of 185, 190 miles an hour or so. These Can-Am cars carry 80 liters of fuel. We expect them to go about 22 laps before they'll need to pit.
And these are some of the slower GT3 cars. Look at these guys. They're flat out through the tri-oval. And look at, there is a Can-Am car that comes up on that battle. And those guys might not even know those Can-Am cars are there. That's what makes it so difficult for both the fast cars and the slow cars. The slow guys, they've got to race each other, but they've also got to make room for the Can-Am cars.
On the infield portion, this is the International Horseshoe coming up. Good look at car number 60 there. That is a different mechanical combination. It's known as a Kopf-Keiler, named after a wild German pig.
Well, that is a car. It's a one-off design and built car run by an interesting group. And you know, it's on a real budget, but they've really developed that car very nicely. And the car is actually a pretty quick race car.
Jim Moser, Chris Wilson, and Barry Waddell handling the driving chores there. Back up to our leader. Number 16, Riley and Scott Ford for Dyson Racing. Winners of this race 2 years ago. James Weaver with a hammer down, leading Alan McNish, Didier Tays, Mad Max Pappas of kart fame is here as well, and last year's sports car champion, Butch Leitzinger. Stay with us. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona is being brought to you by Porsche, who wish to remind you there is no substitute. Here's a look at our running order. All Can-Am class cars in the top 10. In fact, they run through the top 14 before you get to our leader in the GT2 category. And that is the Dodge Viper, being driven by Olivier Beretta. James Weaver leads the overall race. There's 11th through 20th. Including GT2 leader Beretta in the Viper. Back in 18th and 19th, the second and third place cars in the category, a Porsche 911 and one of those brand new factory Corvettes. 21st through 30th includes our GT3 leaders. Kelly Collins behind the wheel of a Porsche 911 RS. Porsche not in the running for the overall victory this year. The company has chosen to withdraw as a factory for a year. The rumor has it, no one will confirm, that they are working on something brand new and very different for the German car maker to come back in a very big way next year. But there are lots of privateer Porsches out here with assistance from Porsche Cars North America, a big parts truck, lots of engineering help. Porsche, one of the great names in endurance racing and the winningest brand here at the Rolex 24.
And that's what you love about a company like Porsche. Often they are in contention for that overall win, but if they're not, there are plenty of people willing to campaign their cars to win in either GT2 or GT3, any of the other classes that are running, that they're almost always represented.
As we mentioned earlier, traffic expected to be a factor here. And right now the leaders have lapped roughly half the field as they work lap number 8. Car number 20, Butch Leitzinger, virtually an identical car to the race-leading number 16, Ford, Riley, and Scott. Big, booming 5.1-liter Ford V8 from Lozano Brothers. Marty Reed has more on the Dyson team.
Well, not exactly the Dyson team. Let's put a period on the 28 car at John Field. They have a misfire at the top end. They get about 6,800 rips, and that's about it. It starts to sputter on him. He's dropped back to 73rd position out of 78. The good news is there's only one way to go, and that's forward, if they can solve the problem.
Tire smoke there in the horseshoe. It's a very dirty corner down there. We've had lots of breeze, a lot of dirt blown up or kicked up by passing race cars over the last couple of days. Through 2 days of practice and qualifying, though, we saw very few major incidents and virtually no crashes. This is the battle for 9th place. Car number 3 up ahead, Riley and Scott Ford. For Hurley Haywood, a 5-time winner of this race, Danny Sullivan, who won in the GT1 class last year, and brothers Dale and Don Whittington returning to Daytona for the first time since the mid-'80s.
And these are privateer efforts. In other words, these are not teams that you would see at every single race. They've put together a driver lineup and a team to come to Daytona. And, of course, Hurley tremendous history here at Daytona. Has won the race many, many times. Teamed with Danny Sullivan. You know, great drivers, very solid crews, very solid efforts. They're not running up front, but don't be surprised to see them much closer to the front as the hours tick by.
Haywood in the white car up ahead running ninth. George Robinson, your chauffeur here. And here's Riley and Scott with Chevy V8 power. Entry. Oh, we got a car up at the wall. This is why the car went low. Robinson went down to avoid this Porsche 911 that has hit the wall hard on the right side.
And this will be a full course yellow because that car in a very bad spot in between NASCAR 4 and the Tri-Oval where the Can-Am cars would be on average at about 185 miles an hour. There you see number 69, the GT3 Porsche. We can't get a good look at the right side of that car, so we don't know exactly what's happened, whether he got pushed up into the wall or a car coming by him clipped the right front corner. There you see the flags, full course yellow.
Thierry Perrier of France driving with Jean-Louis Ricci, an experienced sports car driver and an heir to the Nina Ricci fortune. Meanwhile, up front, James Weaver waving his hand. He looks angry about something. This is our first full course caution. As a result, perhaps everybody's not minding yellow flag procedures as they've been told to in the drivers' meetings. There's Perrier up against the wall. He has passed the pit entrance up in the Tri-Oval area.
Well, undoubtedly, they'll go and put a tow truck on that car and pull him right into the pits. There you see he's just in front of the pit entrance. So they'll probably pull that car down pit lane, and it'll give the crew an opportunity to have a look at it and see if they can fix it.
I was wrong. He could make the pit entrance. Let's take another look. Now there's Robinson going down low on the left side of your screen. There is the end of the contact for Perrier.
And it's very unusual for the GT3 cars. The GT3 runners are always told in the drivers' meeting to stay low, let the faster cars go by on the high side on the banking. Very unusual to see that car out on the outside there.
Those cars come off turn 4 of the NASCAR oval at about 160 miles an hour. And that, as the NASCAR boys might say, was some lick. First full course caution. We'll be back. Welcome back. Under caution, live from Daytona International Speedway in the first hour of the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Bob Varsha along with Jeremy Dale, Bill Weber, and Marty Reed. Glad to have you with us. The pits will be open shortly following a crash by Frenchman Thierry Perrier in a GT3 Porsche 911. It'll be interesting to see who pits.
Well, we're only 20 minutes in here, but it's not that uncommon for the leaders to do that first pit stop early, to get some fuel mileage calculations and just settle into the race, look at tire wear, a couple of things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these cars pit or stay out. It really is a tough call. But, you know, 20 minutes in, come in, have a look. Let's go down to Marty Reed.
Well, let's update you on what happened in the 69. Bob Wallach was a late addition this morning to that race team. They decided to start Bob in the car, and that is Bob Wallach that put it into the wall. Now, we tried to talk to the team. Most of them do not speak much English. They do not know, though, what actually caused the accident, whether it was driver error or something let go. So let's go to Bill Weber.
And the leader of the race, just 21 minutes and 27 seconds in, James Weaver is on pit road. I asked Rob Dyson why come in so early. He said, why not? Of course, they're going to change tires and top it off with fuel, but that's what they're concerned about. They want to get a look at the tires. They just want to make sure everything's okay. Obviously, you're going to give up a lot of track position, and James is going to have his work cut out for him getting through some traffic. But he did radio in before he came in that everything was fine. The car was running well. Everything's good. Goodyear tires going on. They have been scuffed earlier in the weekend, having a little trouble on the right front. Now they're all set, still working on the right rear. Car pulls in front of them, the 32. Now they're making a slight adjustment. A couple of Ferraris on pit road. A lot of traffic down here, a lot of Can-Am cars. Now Weaver's going to have to watch it as he pulls out. And he gets back out on pit road and dodges one car and then heads out back toward the track.
60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit for the Rolex 24. As you see, two Ferraris being worked on. The one on the right, Didier Tays in the Lista Ferrari 333 SP, one of the newest chassis built by the Piccolotto firm in Italy. Cars number 24 and 25 arrived in the United States at the shops of Kevin Doran, who runs this team.
And you can see those guys, the crew guys, doing a rear wing change. They're changing the gurney tab on the rear wing. So I guess not happy with the handling on that car as we see the number 4 Corvette come in. USRRC official a little bit in the way there. Let's go down to Marty Reed.
Jeremy, you're dead spot on, and she's getting an earful from one of the crewmen about keep your heads up, because it's cost them a little bit of time here. They've had to move the car forward, back, and now forward again. He's now in the 2-car pit. Now they're going back to the 4-car. Thank goodness this is under yellow, or this would be a deadly pit stop for them. But it looks like they're going to top off. In fact, the motor has shut off. They're going to change Goodyear Eagles all the way around. Car was running in 2nd place. It was about 10 seconds by my last count behind the number 50 Viper. So this will shake up the order a little bit. We'll find out what the Viper strategy is going to be as soon as we get done here.
Well, you won't see a NASCAR-style 16-second pit stop, much less a Formula One-style 7-second job. But still, being efficient and quick in the pits is important, even in a 24-hour race.
You can't make mistakes, but more importantly, if you do make a mistake, you can't panic and cause yourself bigger problems, because the whole point is to get to the end. If you do make a mistake, and there will be mistakes, you just need to roll with it, get the problem solved, and get going again.
Former IRL champion Scott Sharp, who has a long history driving sports cars before he went to the Pep Boys Indy Racing League, at the controls of that brand new factory Corvette. We anticipate the signal 1 to go the next time they cross the start-finish line, and they will take the green flag from that point in the tri-oval area here at Daytona International Speedway. We'll take a break. Car number 20 with Butch Leitzinger at the keyboard is our leader. We'll be back for a green flag of the Rolex 24. Welcome back. Hour 1 of the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. We're under a full course caution, and here's why.
And have a look out here. That's where that Porsche is rubbing up against the wall. And this is the view from George Robinson's car. And we understand Bob Wallach was on board that car, so we would have to assume there was a mechanical problem. A driver like Bob Wallach would not get caught out high like that and have that car push up into the wall.
A 4-time overall winner of the Rolex 24. Let's get down to Marty Reed.
Just before we go green, the sister car, the number 2 Chevrolet Corvette C5R with Ron Fellows at the wheel, in for its first stop. I think what they're doing here, rather than trying to play the same game with the Vipers, they want to get a good mapping strategy as what their fuel consumption is. They want to look at tire wear. This was a good opportunity to do it under the yellow. Gets the butterflies out for this crew. This is their first time doing hot pit stops all together. Let's go down to Bill Weber.
And down here on the pit lane with Roland Pouton, the chairman of Rolex USA, and obviously a magnificent event you guys are sponsoring here at Daytona.
Well, Bill, we are very blessed by what I would call a combination of very good elements. First, the weather is spectacular. I think that we can see that through the audience and the spectators who are here. It's amazing to see how many more people are showing up this year than last year. I think that's one of the major factors because of view of the weather. The field also is spectacular. I think that you saw we had a very clean start, and it has been a tremendous pleasure to be here, and we've been here since 1957, so it's a long way.
And this is one of the best fields here ever. Cars and driver talents, an international flavor, and a lot of American drivers here this year.
I'm delighted to see that we have so many Europeans and so many South American, on top, of course, of all the Americans who participate. This is a very healthy sign for the sport, for endurance sports car racing, which is one of the greatest sports in the world.
Well, thank you for your hospitality, and we look forward to Rolex's future involvement here at Daytona.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Bill and Roland. We should point out that a shiny new Rolex Daytona chronograph will go to each of our winners in victory lane at the end of the race. The overall order has been shuffled by the pit stops. Our GT2 leader up into the number 4 spot. We anticipate the green flag shortly.
And of course, the big winner here on this first full course caution is the number 50 Viper, who has slotted up into 4th overall by not stopping that car up into 4th overall. It'll drop down pretty quickly with those Can-Am cars behind it, though.
Once again, Desiree Wilson brings the Corvette pace car off the racetrack. The green flag is in the hands of our flagman. There's the race leader, Butch Leitzinger, and he is on the move. 3 and 4 wide in the tri-oval.
And look at this, James Weaver and the number 7 car with Alan McNish. These two were very close together before the yellow flag. And this is a new format, of course. They don't point the overall leader around anymore. So these guys, we're going to see this throughout the race. These guys on these restarts having to work their way through these packs of cars. Look at this.
Oh, man. Speed differentials of 60, 70 miles an hour or more. Down in the International Horseshoe, there's one of the Vipers going by.
And here is Weaver. This is this restart. Watch Weaver, what he's got to do. And there's McNish popping down off the banking there onto the apron, trying to get a run on Weaver in the pit entrance as they come through the tri-oval with like 50 and 70 mile an hour closing rates.
Wow, what a surprise for McNish as Weaver moved down, and all of a sudden he was looking at the back end of a car coming rushing up at him. These cars will take a lot of punishment. And look at the traffic on the infield portion. They're about to turn left and go up onto the NASCAR banking. Not a moment too soon for these Can-Am cars.
And this is really the best opportunity to get into trouble. When you're trying to hustle your way through this traffic, when all these cars are grouped together, this is your best opportunity. Look at McNish. He drops down, but he's got nowhere to go, and he's got to slot back in behind Weaver. But now he's got to run down the bottom side. Racetrack gets a lot wider out here.
Oh, well, he's using that transition down to the apron and just pounding that Ferrari. He was in that same driver.
And look at Weaver. Weaver comes back on the inside. McNish makes the pass. Weaver comes back around the inside. That shows you the spirit that James Weaver drives with. Just phenomenal.
And so does McNish. Keep in mind, we are 30 minutes into a 24-hour enduro. Alan McNish in the green and white car, the Ferrari, all over James Weaver. Look, oh, down low again. They almost touched.
Oh, Weaver gave him a little pinch there. He didn't want him coming around. Gave him a little pinch down to the bottom.
You made the point earlier in the drivers' meeting. The slower cars were told to stay down. The Can-Am drivers are supposed to listen and say, that means I'm passing on the high side. Not if your name's Alan McNish.
Just phenomenal racing here. 30 minutes in, less than 30 minutes in. And now they're into it again. More lap traffic. And look at Weaver, had to go to the brakes there, really destroyed his momentum, and there's McNish again. I have to say, though, no one is better on the brakes than James Weaver. Going into the corners, James Weaver, just phenomenal.
They just went by the leader in the GT3 category, Kelly Collins, in the number 23, that white Porsche. On board with the Flying Scot, Alan McNish. James Weaver up ahead. These cars running 3rd and 4th.
And you can see a record there. Drivers left as they came out of the hairpin there. It looks like there's a car parked on the barrier down there. I guess they're trying to move it without going full course caution. There's Weaver going around the outside of the Marcos, that multicolored car there. That's a GT2 car, Chevrolet powered.
Number 72, another Ferrari 333 SP coming up from behind. He knows all of this is going on in front of him. That's Didier Taze.
Look at McNish got him. Weaver not able to come back at him under braking for the bus stop. And McNish will be able to maintain that advantage, and that's what he needs with that Ferrari, to be out in front when they come onto the straightaway so he can stretch the advantage. Weaver will catch him in the infield. Look at that air duct sticking up through the bodywork there. That is the suspension movement. You got a good idea of what that right rear suspension is doing, and believe me, it's very loaded up on the banking.
Last year, these Ferrari V12s revved to some 12,000 RPM or more, but because of the air restrictors that were added this year, you see Weaver's headlights coming up quickly from behind. The Ferrari's revved to about 10.3, 10.4 now. Meanwhile, behind him, 8,200, 8,400 RPM or so for that big Ford V8.
Well, the Ford V8 in endurance trim, they'll use about 7,000 RPM. The motor would never last above 7,000 for the 24 hours. Now, this is where we expect Weaver to close up in the infield a little bit. He did it in that first horseshoe, but McNish came off the corner very well. There's Weaver closing up again under braking. That Riley Scott makes more downforce than the Ferrari. But when they get out onto the straightaway, there's no question that Ferrari's got some top end.
Pirelli tires on the Ferrari. Goodyear's on the Riley and Scott. And that's another one of the battles going on here. 6 tire companies represented among the 78 entries. See the last lap speed and the speed of the Can-Am leader, Alan McNish, driving with Max Angelelli, former champion Wayne Taylor, and former motorcycle racer Didier de Rigui. Once more into the chicane. Meanwhile, on pit road, they also serve who only stand and wait. This is Weaver's team, watching the same pictures you are, as you might have guessed, watching that crewman goofing off.
Little cheeky move there. Now, this battle for third is about 8 seconds behind the leader. In second position is the number 88 Ferrari. Not running as quick as these two, so I'm quite certain here in a lap or two, maybe 3, the 7 car is going to catch that 88 car. There's the leader, Butch Leitzinger, and the number 20 Dyson Ford.
If you're a fan of sports car racing, you know that there are 2 competing professional series in the United States. The U.S. Road Racing Championship, they are the sanctioning body for this race, the Rolex 24. There is also Pro Sports Car Racing, which has its own separate schedule. Last year, the Dyson team ran both series and won both drivers' titles. James Weaver won the USRRC Drivers' Championship. That man, Butch Leitzinger, won the Pro Sports Car title.
Look at this battle. Man, look at James Weaver. He is just the friskiest guy. I mean, he really pushes very hard all the time, and he doesn't like to be passed. I mean, he's clearly sending a message to Alan McNish. We're not just going to lay down and let you run this race the way you want to run it. We're going to be there. We're going to be chasing you. You may have the faster car, but we are going to be there.
Weaver in the red, white, and blue car to the right of your screen. Alan McNish in the red, white, and green Ferrari. Well, for our 2-time champions in the GT3 category from PTG BMW, we got a car off. That's the number 63, Jim Downing Mazda Kudzu. And we had reports that the rear wing might be loose and flapping around on that car.
Well, you can see that wing is not mounted with, you know, it's on those 2. Oh, look at that bunch of grass he just dumped there, right in the middle of that corner. I'll tell you what, if they don't get that debris flag up, someone is going to go off the road there. If they don't put a debris flag up, that's really going to catch someone out.
That's Howard Katz from New York City driving, sharing driving chores with the car's owner and builder Jim Downing, Chris Ronson, and Yohiro Terada of Japan. 23 countries from around the world represented in the 330 or so drivers competing in this year's race.
And Jim Downing, of course, famous for rotary-powered cars, a long association with Mazda.
On board the Ferrari once again.
Now, he is catching the 88 car here. That is the 88 Ferrari. Now, there's a car off the racetrack. They're in the second horseshoe here. There's a car off the racetrack as they come out here on the left. You can see the wrecker there. So no passing allowed until they get past that incident. But Alan McNish catching that 88 Ferrari very quickly.
And just behind McNish is the number 16 of James Weaver. The 88 is another Ferrari. Being shared by Doc Bundy from Georgia, Mike Davies, Bill Dollahite, and Paul Dallenbach, younger brother of Wally Dallenbach Jr.
And Mike Davies on board right now. You saw the point by there. Mike gave him the point by. I wonder if he knows if Weaver's there or not.
This chicane, I can guarantee you, will be the scene of more than its share of incidents over 24 hours. It always works out that way. Now, another of the new wrinkles in the race this year is the lighting system installed here at Daytona International Speedway for last year's NASCAR Pepsi 400. The lights will be run at 20% power through the nighttime hours, which provides a lot of illumination and could change the nature of this race. We'll be showing that to you when we return for our live coverage at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning here on ESPN2. Coming up on slower traffic, a four-wheel or all-wheel drive turbocharged Mitsubishi, a local effort from right here in Daytona Beach, Florida, raising money for charity.
Look at this. Weaver's right there. Let's go down to Bill Weber in the pits.
And the 63 car is here. Howard Katz at the wheel. He has shut it off. They brought it in to check for debris. Obviously, they're going to have to clean out the front grille that gets the air back into this car. He sits there patiently waiting for them to clean the grille, and they're going to tighten the rear wing on the back. No tire change. And obviously, they're just making some routine maintenance here after an off-course excursion. I said, what happened? They said, all he said was, I spun. He didn't say why. So the 63 sits here on pit road, losing some time. Now he gets the cue to start it back up, and Katz will head back out on the racetrack.
Sixth running of the Rolex 24 for Howard Katz from New York, and we'll keep an eye on that car. Like the Porsches in the other categories, the Mazdas may not have the top-end speed, but they are bulletproof. They keep going and going and going. We could see those guys on the podium if they don't have too many more problems like that in the next 24 hours. Down the 3,500-foot backstretch. You see a lot of empty grandstands here at Daytona. That's because this is the Rolex 24. For the Winston Cup race, you want to be up high in the grandstands, but for sports cars, you want to be down at ground level, up alongside the fence as these cars wend their way through the infield. We'll take a look at our Can-Am class leaderboard. Butch Leitzinger running out front. On board with Alan McNish. We'll be back with more live coverage still in the first hour, just 40 minutes into the 37th Rolex 24. Stay right with us. Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway and the Rolex 24. Be sure to be with us tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 a.m. Pacific. Sorry about that, but the race goes on for 24 hours, and we'll have the last 6 hours live for you here on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. There's our leader, Butch Leitzinger, running in slower traffic in the number 20, Riley and Scott Ford. Meanwhile, up ahead, another Can-Am car. Let's get to the pit lane of Marty Reed.
Well, the 88 of Mike Davies was running in third place. He's come in for his first regularly scheduled pit stop. He did not take advantage of the yellow. They were having problems with the right rear tire, and it has cost them a ton of time. They're also working on trying to block off part of the front end of this vehicle. Right behind him, the number 95 is also pitted. Jared Schrader is climbing out, and it looks like Tom Volk is getting into that car. So we've got a lot of action at this end of pit lane, but this 88 stop has been deadly for them. They picked up a lot of track position by staying out, but now they're losing it all because this right rear tire is just still not going on.
And Marty, I don't know if you remember, but yesterday in practice, they had a left rear come off in practice, so they had some problems yesterday as our leader comes in.
Let's get to Bill Weber as Butch Leitzinger brings his Riley and Scott Ford to the Dyson pit.
And the 20 car is on pit road. Butch radioed in. He had a fuel warning light, so he brings his car down pit road. He did not pit earlier. We're 43 minutes and 30 seconds into the Rolex 24. So this is Leitzinger's first stop. He'll get 4 Goodyear tires and then a full load of fuel, and then he'll head back out on the track. Again, his teammate James Weaver did pit under the caution. Leitzinger stays out. He gets the thumbs up from Rob Dyson, sits patiently in the car. They tighten on the lug on all 4 wheels, waiting on the fuel. Leitzinger with the visor up, getting some fresh air. They sweep the grill. Now they wait. Brights are on, waiting on the left rear. Going to make an adjustment back there. Now they talk it over, drop the car, and Butch is on his way.
That's a fairly typical stop here at the Rolex 24 as Leitzinger heads back out. Meanwhile, taking over the lead, Alan McNish, number 7. And we understand that the leader may have a black flag in his immediate future for passing under the yellow, a possible stop-and-go penalty.
Well, remember we talked about that car that was up against the barrier with the wrecker there, and it took them about 8 laps to move that car. And so that was probably where that problem happened for Alan McNish.
Here's Leitzinger, who stopped after 21 laps, to give you an idea of the mileage that these cars can get, at least those Fords. There is the leader. No sign of the black flag from the flag stand yet. Slower traffic ahead for this young Scot.
love the sound of that Ferrari V12.
Fairly spacious working conditions in these Can-Am cockpits. When you're Alan McNish's size, he's built like a jockey.
That is, I refer to that as proper stature. I'm not exactly a giant myself.
Jim McKay and Jackie Stewart used to say on ABC Sports, men of average height.
I prefer proper stature.
Working the infield. This was the scene of that yellow flag earlier for a car off to the right of your screen. The car has long been cleared. The question remains whether Alan McNish will be called in for that stop and go.
Well, boy, Alan McNish has certainly set the tone for the Doyle Reese team in this Ferrari. Now, this is the team that won the Petite Le Mans last October at Road Atlanta, a 10-hour endurance race. So they've proven that they can win endurance races.
In fact, this car has raced 3 times previously, twice in Europe, once here in America, winning the Petite Le Mans at Road Atlanta last fall. It has never finished lower than second place in a race. 2 victories and a second place coming into today's event. There's the number 16 Dyson car to the right. James Weaver working his way through traffic, trying to close on the race leader. Currently shown a little over 5 seconds behind as he rides the banking.
Now, those would be GT2 Porsches, and you can see, Weaver's coming in.
This is with 22 laps complete.
So apparently Weaver has been black flagged. This is the penalty box here, so not quite a full stop, but Weaver makes a rolling stop, 60 miles an hour. Listen to the radio.
Now he cannot stop. He has to go back down.
By the way.
Richie Pat Smith on the radio with James Weaver.
Now I'm going to assume when the two of them were really duking it out there about 5 or 6 laps ago that they maybe missed the yellow flag, but certainly they were working their way through traffic down in that area of the racetrack, and probably inadvertently in their exuberance racing one another probably went by another car. Bill, can you help us?
A little bit, Jeremy. Alan McNish had radioed in to try and get race officials' attention that people were passing back there under the yellow. Some people thought he was guilty of the violation, but in fact, he was pointing out that other people were guilty. And one other development with this team is that Wayne Taylor has a very, very bad case of the stomach flu. His availability at this point is questionable, and that's why McNish started the car and not Wayne Taylor.
Well, that makes it a tactical triumph that they brought in Alan McNish. He was not originally entered in this car, but he was brought in very late in the game, got some laps in practice, and is now driving with Wayne Taylor, a former champion, potentially out of the action. That still leaves them with 3 drivers, including Max Angelelli and Didier Diredier. On board with the Viper, here's a look at the GT2 standings right now. Viper out front over a Porsche. And those Chevy Corvettes for Scott Sharp and Ron Fellows running in 4th and 5th in class at the moment. Very different engine note from that Dodge V10.
And who would have thought that a motor that was originally designed to power a pickup truck could be a Le Mans 24-hour winner? Just a phenomenal job that the people at Chrysler have done with these Vipers to make them endurance racing champions.
Just a few years ago, the Viper team came here to take a shot at the Rolex 24. And like the Corvette team here this year, they said, well, you know, we're going to come out here, we're going to do the best we can. Since that time, they have won their class at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. They come in here as class favorites in GT2.
And of course, they won the FIA GT championship last year as well, which is a global GT championship. So a very, very accomplished team and driver, a very accomplished team and car combination.
Oh, we've got a problem with the entrance to the chicane. Someone appears to have lost a flat tire, I think.
I don't know. Very hard to tell what's wrong with that car.
Awkward place to stop. I guess he wanted to let traffic through.
It looks like there's a problem at the left rear. Maybe the left rear tire's gone down. A deflated left rear tire, probably. You can see the car kind of listing a little bit.
Car number 56 is a Porsche 993 RSR, non-turbo Porsche with an all-German driving lineup, save for Hans Willems from Belgium. Meanwhile, Alan McNish on the race lead, flashes across the start-finish line. Downshifting for turns 1 and 2.
Alan McNish is one of those drivers that it really doesn't matter what you put him in. Look at this, side by side. Doesn't really matter what you put him in. He can drive the wheels off it, whether it's a rear-engine Porsche or a Can-Am car or an open-wheel car. Of course, started his career in an open-wheel car. As you look at the overall...
I believe there is no full course yellow. I believe there is no full course yellow.
Well, that sounds like a team manager talking to McNish, telling him that because that car that was back in the chicane will not cause a full course yellow.
I believe that's John Coughlin, the team manager.
Oh. This car that you see here, that's down in NASCAR Turn 1.
Alan McNish was back on the radio telling the team there was a problem in the banking. Car number 58, a Porsche 993. Peterson Motorsports. This is an interesting lineup. Angelo Seeley, Tom Miller, Michael Peterson, John Ruther, and Dale White, a very accomplished off-road racer. Angelo Seeley is the driver right now. Dale White on the team strength, a three-time winner of the Baja 1000. And this team has great plans, including NASCAR Craftsman trucks and possibly a Winston Cup team in the future. And right now, they have severely redesigned the left side of that Porsche.
And we understand they're going full course caution. Let's look at a replay here, and this is the back end of it, but he gets sideways and hooks it back up the banking, and a very hard hit in NASCAR Turn 1 there. And I would say that car's probably done because that was a big, big hit.
The second car appeared to be involved. He was in the vicinity. I didn't quite get that number. It looked like it had been car number 60, perhaps. No, it wouldn't have been 60.
Now, this is on board with McNish. You can see the wreck happening up ahead of him here. You can see his finger on the button there. He's on the radio already as it's happening, and he drives right through it. Not a big danger to McNish there, but certainly calling back to the team as it's happening, giving them the play-by-play.
Makes it all the more remarkable. His voice was so even as he was reporting that potential schmozzle up there on the banking. You'd think these guys would be screaming. Second full course caution of the day, and we're still in the first hour.
Are you tired of waiting for monthly car mag?
Back live at Daytona on board with race leader Alan McNish being told to pit. Let's follow the radio transmission.
The pit lane is open, yeah? The pit lane is open. Pit now.
It's coming into the pits on the banking, coming down.
Looking in his mirrors.
While we were away at break, the team manager told McNish that he will stay in the car. It'll be a normal pit stop. But I did hear McNish tell him the car was going a little bit loose, a little bit oversteer, a little bit too much heat in the rear tires. So maybe not completely happy with the handling of the Ferrari.
Well, under
Alan, could you read the meter, please, and then zero it?
McNish getting 4 tires and fuel. He'll relay some information to his crew chief and the rest of his crew. They're going to try and correct that oversteer problem. McNish has his front tires. They're also re-decaling the car. Apparently that decal came off early in the race. A quick stop, and McNish is on his way. We go to Marty Reed.
And the 50 Viper is in. They had a 35-second lead by one count down here over second place. So really, they had taken advantage of track position and had worked themselves into a good green flag position pit stop. But now with the yellow, they come in. Tommy Archer makes the driver change. He climbs in. Will take over for Olivia Beretta. This car right now, this is a very, very standard pit stop. Everything seems to be going well. And he's buckling up belts, and then they're going to be getting back out onto the race course. Guys, take it.
All right, thanks, Marty. Dodge V10 fires up. Whoops.
Yeah, they got a little blockage here. They had to roll that car back. Let's go down to Bill Weber.
Well, the pole-sitting car, the Porsche in the GT3 class, is just taken off. And Kelly Collins has just climbed out, taking off the helmet. We'll find out how things have been going out there. A lot of traffic out there.
There's an unbelievable amount of traffic. It's just you got to have one eye in the rearview mirror and one on the road. I'm telling you, we've got little things going off on our display, so I'm having to push buttons on the dash, look behind me, keep the car in the lead, keep it in one piece, and there's a lot of craziness going on between the real fast cars and the slower cars, and we're trying to run our race in the back. It's just, I wish I had 3 eyeballs right now.
How's that Team Seattle Porsche?
Excellent. The Team Seattle Porsche, the Alex Job car is on fire. This Porsche right now, there's no substitute.
And helping them raise some money, right?
Say it again?
Help them raise some money, too.
Absolutely. We're going to go as many laps as we can.
All right, they're trying to raise money for a children's hospital in Seattle, get money pledged for every lap. Won the pole, and so far are off to a good start. Kelly Collins out of the car.
All right, thanks very much, Bill. They've had a sterling record in raising money. They hope to get some $220,000 this year. And a young patient from the Seattle Children's Hospital and Regional Medical Center is here to support the team this weekend. While we're under yellow, we'll take a break. This yellow flag is coming at a great time for some of the teams. We'll talk about that a little bit when we return to Daytona International Speedway. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, Hurley Haywood has climbed out of the number 3 Riley and Scott Ford. And there's an interesting story going on here. Of all the Ford engines, most are built by the Lozano brothers in Texas. This particular number comes from the Michigan shops of Winston Cup maven Jack Roush, and they think they could have a fuel mileage advantage on this car over the other Ford-powered cars, and that can make a huge difference. If you can save a pit stop or two during the course of a 24-hour race, that can do a lot for you.
Well, what they're going to need is a lot of green flag running and not a lot of these full course yellows to take advantage of that fuel economy.
The number 20 car has taken over the lead. Meanwhile, our Corvettes, that factory effort, running 16th and 17th. The number 4 car leading the 2 car.
And this is on board the number 2 car. And I think they've really just, they've settled in. They've been running 3rd and 4th in their class, although they're up to 2nd and 3rd right now because the 99 Porsche of Schumacher Racing has stopped. So they're running in 2nd and 3rd. And I think they're just going to settle in and find a nice pace, see what the car's comfortable with. Of course, it's very difficult debuting a car in a 24-hour race.
You hear those very deliberate shifts. Big change in the engine. No, they're being very careful with that car. None of those instantaneous shifts you sometimes hear in sports cars.
Well, just like the Corvette street car, this car does have a transaxle in the back. So it architecturally, it's very similar to the street car in that the gearbox is in the back. Weight distribution is really good on this car.
The 4 cars started by Scott Sharp, being shared by Andy Pilgrim and John Heinrichsey, a GM engineer, a well-known Corvette racer in showroom stock ranks. As we mentioned, Hurley Haywood out of the number 3 car. He gave up the lead. Bill Weber is with him.
Hurley Haywood back on pit road. What's it like out there?
Well, the track is really greasy, and it's just slipping and sliding around on us, and it's a real effort to avoid some of the slow cars. There is a lot of traffic out there, and there's a lot of different kinds of driving styles and abilities, so it keeps me busy out there.
Closing speeds are tremendous, aren't they?
Yeah, you know, this is a survival game, and you hate to take a chance so early in the race, so I'm just kind of backing off and making sure the guys know me, but there was 100 times out there that my heart was in my mouth.
And we're back under green.
Thanks, Bill. Speaking of heart and mouth, another huge scrum at the green flag. We're back underway, and it's another traffic jam down into 1. The number 20 Dyson Racing car leads the number 7.
Well, that was a pass for the lead on the restart there. The 20 car was leading, and now the 7 car leads.
Alan McNish still driving that Ferrari. Picked up season-long sponsorship from the Olive Garden restaurant chain this weekend. Here's the view back from McNish's car.
Always dodgy in the infield on these restarts because you have no tire temperature. You heard Hurley Haywood talking about how slick it is, and of course that is only magnified on cold tires, or I should say not fully warm tires. So always a bit dodgy on these restarts through the infield. Once you get through this section of the banking, down the back straightaway into the chicane, you're in good shape. You've got good tire temperature.
Meanwhile, on board the number 4 Chevrolet Corvette that has moved into the lead in the GT2 category, going around the Dodge Viper number 50 that has led from the green flag. The number 74 Can-Am car, that Riley and Scott Chevrolet, down low.
And you can see these Vipers don't give up a lot in straight line speed to the Can-Am cars, but when they go to the brake pedal, that's where the big difference is. On the brakes and in the corners is where the Can-Am cars will go quick. But that V10 sure gets it down the straightaway very quickly. But the Corvette, having made a great restart and taken over the lead in GT2.
There's the Viper up high. Started by Olivier Beretta. Sharing with David Donohue, whose father, the late Mark Donohue, won this race in a Lola Chevrolet 30 years ago.
And this is back on board the Corvette, coming through the tri-oval down into turn 1. As you flash by the pits on the left side, you see a Can-Am car come by on the right. That is the George Robinson car again.
Great sound from that V8.
Yeah, I was down in pit lane yesterday, and I was standing there as the car went through the tri-oval, and it just makes so much noise. I mean, it's really a very noisy car. You can see also that diffuser at the back of the car. The diffuser is the little section of bodywork under the rear bumper, and that really helps with aerodynamics on these GT2 cars. Really cleans up the aerodynamics.
This car spent a lot of time in the wind tunnel. We hear about enormous downforce numbers from open-wheel cars. This Corvette has enough downforce to drive down the ceiling of a tunnel, if that were possible. Tommy Archer in the Viper in second. Ron Fellows in the second Corvette is now in third place. You're on board with Fellows. There's low revs of the infield portion of this racetrack. And that's a part of the mechanical or technical challenge of the Rolex 24. A much tougher race than even the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which you spend a lot of time in high revs and is relatively gentle on the car despite the long distance run. Back on board with Alan McNish looking off the back of that Ferrari. In the second place just behind. Rich Leisinger in the number 20 car. Another thing about Le Mans is it takes place in June.
Behind you is position 2. Number 20, the car behind you is position 2.
Vicious crew playing tattletale, letting him know that is a position behind him, a potential position change. Further back, the battle for 5th place, the number 36 car, the 74 you ride with, George Robinson, that R&S Chevrolet. Up ahead, the number 36 is another of the Ferraris. Shared
Whoa,
by...
he just went by Weaver, and that is very surprising. And there may have been a driver change in that car. I didn't see the helmet as they went by, but that is very surprising to see that 74 car just very easily go by the 16 car. The Ferrari up ahead.
Nope. Riley and Scott. We have a car off course. Car number 10, that's one of the prototype technology group BMW M3s.
The starter.
This is not good, guys. That car is not crashed. It's been pulled off. So they've run into some kind of mechanical problem.
Off power at the end of that straightaway.
That's good.
Motor running or is it turned off? Oh, no, it's off.
Meanwhile, the Viper is up on the high banking going around the Corvette for the GT2 lead. While one of the two cars from the powerhouse BMW team sits forlornly off track, bounding over the curbs at the chicane.
Boy, you don't want to do too much of that in a 24-hour race.
This is Tommy Archer, another very experienced driver, an ice racer. In his early days, since then he's won in SCCA, the old pro truck categories. As you look from the outside at that distinct shape of the Viper. And once again, the yellow flags wave from the flag stand. They'll go to the assistance of that BMW. Let's take another look at what happened.
Now, this is coming out of turn 1.
Well, that's oil, you know, when I crank it, the oil pressure starts to go up. Fuel pressure 74.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but Bill Oberlin made a mistake there. He pulled that car off.
You know, we don't have any good ideas right now. The only thing I can tell you is, does it feel like the main shaft's broke?
Why wouldn't it start?
If the main shaft was broken, the car should start. If the flywheel comes off, but the main shaft holds the flywheel off, like the bolts come off or something. Could it be something like that?
That's Tom Milner, the team owner, talking with Bill Oberlin in the car.
And guys, let me just finish that thought. I hate to say it, but Bill Oberlin made a bit of a mistake.
Okay, we're going to consult here, try to figure it out. Stand by. Hopefully they'll throw you away. Over.
When you run into mechanical problems at Daytona in the 24-hour, in the infield, you never pull off to the right. You always pull off to the left. That's an island out there. And Bill's really caught a break here because they're going full course yellow to move that car. And that is really catching a big break for the PTG team.
The rule is only the driver can work on the car, but it's an enormous help if the crew can get him the parts and tools that he needs to do that work.
And that's a problem. He's out on an island there. Marty, can you help us with this?
Well, guys, we're watching everything and listening just the same way you are, and they are not sure whether they've got themselves a motor problem or a drivetrain problem. But right now, as you know, they're going to have to tow it back in. Their chances of winning here.
Right now, Bill, they're stand by there, and I'm sure they're going to, your yellow is out, so they're going to tow you. Everybody, guys, be ready to have the car towed into the garage. Let's get it into the garage, go over to the garage and look what the problem is. Over.
So you can see Tom Milner.
Number, Bill, you want to go to garage number 34 when they tow you in.
Boy, Tom Milner is on top of everything. He knows exactly where he wants his car to be so the crew can jump on it. This team running a streak of 4 consecutive victories in the 2 endurance classics here in North America, Daytona and the Sebring 12 Hours.
The garage.
And based on what these guys are talking about, it sounds like there's some kind of mechanical problem in the driveline. Either it broke a drive shaft or a half shaft or a flywheel or a crankshaft or something like that.
But as Bill raised the question from the driver's seat, why won't the engine start? There is Ernie Irvan of NASCAR Winston Cup fame and a man who won the Daytona 500 for the Winston Cup cars here. Back at the beginning of the decade, he is on the driver's strength for this PTG team. He may not get a chance to get into that car.
Hey, you know what? Don't count these guys out.
I'm cranking it with no spark plugs in it. That's what it sounds like.
He's cranking it. He's cranking it, and it sounds like there's no plugs, which means it's cranking very freely, which may mean something like a broken crankshaft. Look at Bill. Bill's saying, take me.
Trying to tow me to the infield here, to the center.
I want to go to the left.
Come on, you turd.
Oh. Fine thing to say to a guy giving you a tow.
Well, they're trying to.
On the infield, I'm on the tarmac.
They're trying to tow him to a safe place.
Somebody go over there and talk to the guy, Dave. Tell him he won't. Don't leave the car at the infield. We won't go out of the way.
Well, I'm in the middle of the track now.
Well, I think you know what the problem is. If they tow the car to the infield, their intention is to leave it there. And that's not what the team wants to do. Can they force the officials' hands? And will they incur a penalty if they do? Let me correct myself. Ernie Irvan is on the driver's strength for the number 6 car. Right now, Bill Oberlin has his hands full. We'll be following this story. Stay with us. Back live at Daytona International Speedway in the 37th Rolex 24. I'm Bob Varsha along with Jeremy Dale. Glad to have you with us. Let's get to Marty Reed in the pit lane.
Well, the number 4 Chevrolet Corvette decided to make a pit stop. They topped off and have already put the car back out. No driver change, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the 2 car next.
And if you're wondering why that car is being held there, that car cannot rejoin the racetrack until the entire field has gone by. So the field is behind the pace car, behind the safety car. So that car will be held there. They're streaming by, and then it will be released once the entire field has gone by.
Deep into the 2nd hour of this 24-hour marathon, coming up on the 1:15 mark here in the Eastern Time Zone. 2:15 in the afternoon, that is. Corvette heads back out. Meanwhile, over in the 2 car.
I'm guessing that's Chris Neifel.
Just by the height.
hitting his head on the roof.
Chris is about 6'6". Now there is the number 10 BMW M3 with Bill Auberlen that we saw parked off the racetrack earlier. He has won the battle, and he's got them to tow him back to the garage area. Right now he's stuck in a traffic jam.
Typically congested 24-hour paddock area.
Meanwhile, his team is awaiting that car so they can jump on it and see if they can figure out what's wrong with it. Still plenty of time to get back in the race and be a factor, because we're going all the way to 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon Eastern Time. Stay with us for more from Daytona. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway in hour 2 of the 24-hour Rolex 24 at Daytona. Under caution, we expect the green flag in a moment. There's a look at the overall running order. Alan McNish in his Ferrari 333 SP leads over Butch Leitzinger, Didier Tays, Mad Max Pappas still behind the wheel of a Ferrari. George Robinson, Rob Dyson has taken over the number 16 car that started this race from the pole position. You see 11th through 20th. Mixture of Can-Am and GT2 cars. Lots of GT3 cars running 21st through 30th. Borsett in the number 6 car, 22nd overall. His teammate Bill Auberlen has pulled that sister car into the garage area after the car mysteriously lost power, and he pulled it off the racetrack, had to be towed in, and that is the reason we are under the yellow flag right now. 78 cars started the race with 28 different chassis and engine combinations from a variety of manufacturers around the world, and a number of one-off engineering specials.
There you see Auberlen, 59th, fallen back to 59th overall, just like that.
Very early in this race, but he could get back out. Tremendous margins have been made up in the course of a 24-hour race before. Marty Reed is standing by with the lead driver for the all-new factory Chevy Corvettes.
Yeah, Ron Fellows climbed out of the car. You tell me it's a little chaotic out there, buddy?
Marty, I have never been so scared going that slow. The biggest factor for us in the Goodwrench Corvette is just traffic. I mean, there's a variety of lines out there, and there's a lot of big speed differential that is a real handful. You know, it'll get better as the night goes on, but right now for us it's just survival. There's too many people racing right now. They forgot it's a 24-hour race, I think.
You'd think one of them racing too much is Beretta. I mean, he opened up like a 35-second lead, but then came back to you.
Well, he would start out doing 53s, 54s, and he was doing down close to 2 minutes halfway through his stint. So, I mean, to me, I was pretty sure that the rear grip was going to be at a premium halfway through the fuel. So I was just trying to be conservative, get a read on tires. We're still working with Goodyear on what compound do we want in the heat, and we're still undecided.
Ron Fellows playing the patience game right now, guys.
They are racing for the GT2 title here at Daytona, and with it a brand new award from Daytona International Speedway, the Daytona Sports Car of the Year Award, which will go.
Green, 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 go, go, go.
Okay, I get the idea. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That sounds like a producer talking to a talent saying the green is coming out. Stop what you're talking about.
It's also quite funny when he's basically right under the flag. Look at this, side by side through turn 1 on the restart. Look at those Ferraris.
Alan McNish just behind him, the number 20. Behind him, the 72, the 36, the 74.
Yeah, the 88 car, the yellow car there, is a lap down in 11th overall. But the other 4 cars are the 4 leaders.
Cloud passing over the sun makes it look a lot darker, but darkness is very much a part of this race. Because it's January, the nighttime hours last a long time, as opposed to, say, the 24 hours of Le Mans, which is held in June, and the darkness is much shorter. Sometimes it feels like dawn will never come here at Daytona, but it always does. It always gives us a great story to tell you, and we will when we return at 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning.
Now these 2 red cars, these are the Doran cars from the team that won last year. One car owned by Jim Matthews, the other by Freddie Lienhart. phenomenal driver lineups in both these cars. On Yokohama tires last year, on Michelin's this year.
Working the chicane. The 88 car in yellow holding up the car behind. Marty Reed.
Guys, there's trouble with the Dodge Viper. They have no radio communication. They don't think it's a permanent problem. They think the coupler, the little connector from the helmet to the line inside the cockpit has gone loose. They have a problem from our USRRC officials because they have been given a black flag. They cannot get the message to the driver. And right now you're going to see from down here, they're going to run out onto pit lane with a board trying to get the driver of the 50 car to realize, Tommy Archer, to come into the pits. And right now, you see him going by us, and I don't know if he was able to acknowledge the signal or not, but they must answer a black flag for passing under a caution back in the chicane when Olivier Beretta was in the car.
Well, as the car, I was looking out the window here, as the car went under the start-finish box there, they did hang out the black flag. So the question is, has he seen it? The problem is that when you're the driver and you see it, the first thing you want to do is talk to the team. Why am I being black flagged? What did I do?
Now, a number of cars have been cited by officials for passing under that yellow flag. We understand that 5 more cars out there, 5 more cars are going to be called in. And that number may include the number 20 currently running in second place in the hands of Butch Leitzinger. Also, the number 32 car will be brought in.
The 32 is the Lola right in front of the Viper here. The yellow and green car. Conrad Motorsports entry, which currently is running 7th overall. So far having a pretty good day, although not quick enough to outrun the Viper.
Go by him. Holy mackerel. Whoa.
Well, you know, you have to take advantage of your strengths, and one of the big strengths of that Viper is straight line speed.
He loses it under braking again.
Well, look at this, side by side. This second part of the chicane here, whenever you see a car pop out, going into that second part of the chicane, hold your breath, because that is a point on the racetrack where we always see big problems. And it's a pass that really sucks you in. Look at that Viper go.
Wow. Now, once again, Tommy Archer's crew will try to get his attention.
And look at that Lotus. That Lotus car was actually headed for the pit lane as Archer was going by him on the inside. I'm betting that he's not seen those black flags making those kinds of moves.
And the Lola has stopped. Now, it's not a stop and go for the Lola. They are holding him there. Meanwhile, we follow Tommy Archer in the red, white, and blue Viper with those amber gels over the headlights. What an entertaining race it's been thus far. And a great value for your money. I think when you break down the cost of tickets by the hour, it comes out to about 50-60 cents an hour. There is Lammers in the Lola Lotus. A 1-minute penalty for passing not once, but twice under that yellow.
Well, you just have to take the penalty and live with it and move on. Don't let it blow your cool. Just stick to your plan. It's only a minute. You'll get the time back.
Back on the leader, Alan McNish. Rocketing around up high, as he should be. Looking for the second place car. There comes Leitzinger in red, white, and blue. Just behind him, a Ferrari in third place, shared by Freddie Leinhardt, the new car owner, and 3 of the 4 drivers who won this race a year ago. Didier Teyes of Belgium, Mauro Baldi of Italy, and Arie Luyendyk of the Netherlands.
And I spoke to Didier the other day, and these guys are just supremely confident in the ability of Kevin Doran's team to give them the race car they need, give them the package they need to get to the end. And of course, 3 of the 4 drivers were in the car last year, so they're all very comfortable with one another.
Marty Reed.
Guys, unbelievable. Jan Lammers forgot about the rule that you cannot stop at your pit. And he stopped. Everybody just stood there. Nobody could work on the car, so he lost another 20 seconds. Oh, and finally, Tommy Archer has served his stop-and-go penalty. He's coming down pit lane, but he's not going to be able to stop either to fix that radio connection. He's going to have to go right on by us.
There's the 50. Tommy Archer at the controls. He has left the stop and go, the penalty box, but as Marty mentioned, you cannot stop at your pit. Whoa, that's one way to get it woed up.
Yeah, one of the 911s there locking up the inside front tire because you're cornering as you come into that first turn. The car is never really square on its feet. Very common to lock up that inside tire. Let's go down to Bill Weber, who's with Oberlin.
And I know, Bill, you're very disappointed. What happened? Any idea?
No, the Yokohama BMW M3 was running perfect. The team, gave me a pace to run by. We were running it. We were just going to let the Porsche run himself ragged. And then eventually we got by him anyways, just running our pace. And going into turn 1, the thing is at 8,000 RPM, sounding perfect, like it always is. Then it just went silent. And then it was just all I could do to get myself back on the track and over to this side so we get it fixed.
It was a battle just to get back here to the garage. Your guys are looking under the hood. Have they been able to find anything yet?
Not yet. They're going to pull the valve cover off. I mean, I kind of think it's kind of major, and even though it sounded like nothing, but by the time it's taking to pull this whole thing apart, it seems to be kind of major.
Okay, well, we'll be standing by. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Bill Oberlin, a big part of the BMW family here and in Europe. Alan McNish to the right, working the infield section. Meanwhile, the number 72 car right there to the left of your screen has taken over second place from Butch Leitzinger in the number 20 car. Didier Taze still behind the wheel of that bright red Ferrari 333 SP. The letters SP stand for Sport Prototype, and the 333 number is the volume of each of the 12 cylinders in milliliters.
And we haven't talked much about the driver lineup in this car, because that is a very impressive driver lineup. Of course, I mentioned this car owned by Jim Matthews, and he's driving the car. But he's recruited some fantastic drivers. Max Pappas, of course, anyone that saw this race in 1996 saw just a phenomenal performance by Max Pappas, and that really established his reputation in North America. But they've also added Jimmy Vasser to that crew and Stefan Johansson.
Jimmy Vasser and Max Pappas have become close friends in the Kart FedEx Championship Series, and it was Pappas who drafted Vasser into the team. Jimmy hasn't driven at night, hasn't driven a full-body car in quite a long time, so he's got his Daytona experience still out in front of him. On board with Alan McNish, our race leader, about 7.5 seconds of new second-place man in the number 72 car, Didier Taze. There's a look at the top 10 as we continue to work the second of 24 long hours here at Daytona. We'll be back. Back live at Daytona, Alan McNish of Scotland driving the race-leading Doyle Reese Racing Ferrari 333 SP. He's been in that car since the beginning of the race, almost an hour and a half ago. There's the car off the racetrack. We've been watching that for a while. That's Kurt Bowman from Virginia and a Chevy-powered kudzu.
And we've got a good replay here. Here he is going by some lap traffic, kind of drops a wheel, gets in a little hot here, and just loops it, gets it locked up, but not in time, and goes in and touches that barrier. When he drove it out, he ripped the rear wing off it, so it doesn't have a rear wing now. And it looks like it's crabbing a little bit. So I would say the alignment has been solidly knocked out of whack. So if that car, oh yeah, that right rear corner is in rough shape.
78 having problems.
And this looks like it's down in turn 1.
That's another one-off creation called a Norma M14 with Buick power for Sylvain Boulet, Eric Van de Wever, Patrice Roussel of France, and Edouard Sensionale from Largo, Florida. No yellow flags, however. The race continues.
And look at this battle.
Second place, cars number 72, 20, and 36.
And look at the run Leitzinger's got, and he actually has to check up there because the Ferrari comes down in front of him.
It's Didier Taze in the Ferrari.
He had a phenomenal run. But of course the Ferrari has got the legs on the straightaway. Butch not able to do anything, but you know, going back and forth in traffic like that, he's guys are going to do that all night long. And if you think it was difficult during the day, wait till some of these cars start to run into some mechanical problems. I think that's Max Pappas.
Max Pappas, that's who that is, yeah.
When some of the slower cars start to run into mechanical problems and they're going even slower, it's going to be even tougher. And we understand that Butch Leitzinger is going to have to come in and serve that black flag. Believe it or not, it's not happened yet. There were a number of cars that had to come in and stop in that little penalty box there. You saw Jan Lammers in there for a minute.
Officials might be losing patience a little bit. They're threatening 1-minute penalties if you don't come in right away. There's Pappas, car owned by Carolina turkey farmer Jim Matthews, who's come here for several years at Daytona, always with great equipment and great co-drivers.
Yeah, he ran a Riley and Scott last year. The year before that, a Porsche in GT3, and has really stepped up to the plate this year in terms of equipment, the Doran team, and of course his co-drivers.
I mentioned earlier, the faster cars expected to go high on the banking, but they go under braking. 16 and the number 88 car in yellow.
It's the 00. That is the European Ferrari. We haven't really highlighted this team yet, but that is a European-based Ferrari 333. And as you said before, Rob Dyson is in his Riley and Scott right now, so having a good little scrap here with the 00 car.
Good driver lineup in that yellow car as well. Former GT2 class, or make that GT3 class winners, Enzo Calderari and female driver Lillian Breiner, both from Switzerland. Meanwhile, the 20.
Okay, Butch, go right on by and go right around, please. Carry right on by. 5,000 in first gear.
5,000 in first gear would be his pit lane speed limit, so they have calculated that 5,000 RPM in first gear is 60 miles an hour.
And they warned him once again, you cannot stop, go on around. Last year's sports car driving champion in this machine.
Butch.
Back to the battle between 16 and 00. Rob Dyson. This is for 6th place. I mentioned Breiner and Calderari in this car, moving up in the GT3 category. Carl Rosenblatt from England and Angelo Zadra of Italy also driving that yellow Ferrari. Rob Dyson's been coming here for many years. If you've been watching our coverage over the years, you may remember a few years ago when both of his cars dropped out early, moved Rob to tears of frustration. Then in 1997, his team fought through several problems to win the race. Remember them smoking in the late laps? James Weaver tried to hustle the car around, and once again, Rob was reduced to tears. It's that way at the Rolex 24. Some people put so much into this race, as you have to succeed. On board, Alan McNish coming up behind one of the Vipers. They'll take a break. The number 12 car has made it around to get the rear wing replaced. We'll take a break and return with more live from the Rolex 24 in Daytona. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, still working the second of 24 hours of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. There you see the number 32 car, Jan Lammers, and that beautiful Lola making a return to Daytona. This particular car with Lotus twin-turbo V8 power, but he lost the engine on the tri-oval, and he is probably well out of harm's way. I don't think we'll see a yellow flag for this.
Yeah, well, they've been trying this year to have fewer full course yellows. You see Jan having a good look back in there. While we were at break, it came through the tri-oval, enormous plumes of smoke behind the car, so probably some kind of major engine or turbocharger problem. And you can see he was just about to plug his radio back in and talk back to the crew. 74 cars in. This is the 4th place car.
Top 7 cars on the lead lap, all Can-Am machinery. And the crew goes to work. The driver will stay in.
You can never miss the George Robinson paint jobs.
Owner of the 74 Hunting Ranch near his home in Houston, Texas. It really is a beautiful car.
And there's George there. guys may have been anticipating a full course yellow, or it may have just been a scheduled stop. Sometimes you try and second guess the officials, and if you see something like that happen, you pop down into the pit lane and try to get your pit stop done, but it doesn't look like they're going to go full course caution.
Moments ago, we had a big spin on the infield. The number 12 car driven by Kurt Bowman from McLean, Virginia. Watch the right of your screen. As Jeremy mentioned, carrying a little too much speed. We've heard that the track is slippery. He took off the rear wing up against the fence. Marty Reed has more on that story.
Yeah, guys, I'm down here with Kurt Bowman. We just saw a replay of what happened to you, Kurt. Take us through from your perspective.
I was coming through the infield kink, the left-hand kink, and going into one of the turns before the turn up onto the banking. And one of the BMWs, I thought, saw me come to the inside and didn't, and cut back across the front of my car, and I tried to stop and just got it locked up and got it sideways.
Now they're working on the wing right now. It looks like that's the only damage, so you may have escaped relatively free.
I hope so. I certainly hope so, because we've worked hard to be here.
Well, guys, one of the sponsors on this car is Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, and we could say that they can write off that other way.
They also have sponsorship from National Paintball, and they are also raising awareness to fight child abuse. Good on them. Here's a look at our GT2 leaderboard. Tommy Archer in that Dodge Viper out front. Remember, they're calling this a 24-hour test for Le Mans. Second and fourth are those brand new factory Chevrolet Corvettes. As you ride with Tommy Archer. Now to the number 2 machine. On the long backstretch. Running second. On the same lap as the class leader. We talked about it before. Those all-new factory Corvettes have been quite a story this weekend. So we decided we'd take a closer look into this super secret operation from the Chevy Race Shop. Here's Bill Weber.
For 46 years, it has been America's most coveted sports car. And now, for the first time, the Corvette has official factory support and arrived ready to race in the Rolex 24 after nearly 2 years of planning, testing, and secrecy.
Well, that's kind of the way we do things. We've never been inclined to talk a lot about what we're going to do before we do it. And I think our attitude in motorsports has always been to kind of let the results speak for themselves.
There's a bit of cloak and dagger going on, and that helped. You know, initially it was we're going to see how this goes, and then as the development went on, it became a full-fledged project.
It's not the kind of thing you want to tell everybody what you're doing, because obviously it shows your hand a little early, but once we got these final 2 cars built right in the November time frame, then we had to go out and get them tested in time for Daytona, and there's a lot of scrambling going on there right at the end, and there still is.
GM has thrown its technical and financial support behind the Corvette, hoping for positive results.
Today, with the amount of investment that goes in any racing program, you need to do well all the time. So the pressure to win is always there. We feel relatively confident about what we brought here this weekend. Like all racers, we'd love to have more time.
This is an extremely difficult thing to do. Debut a brand new race car at probably, you know, arguably the most difficult 24-hour race there is anywhere in the world. But we feel like it's time to do this.
The Dodge Viper is a proven factory effort, winning its class at Le Mans last year. But the real race was getting this car ready to return to the Rolex after finding out the Corvette was coming. Was this package put together late in the game?
Well, it's late.
Couple of months?
Couple of weeks. I think I had enough time to get a plane ticket.
This is actually the car that crashed at Laguna Seca, and it's been rebuilt. So it's the first time out for the car. We're testing new shocks, first time out with these tires. So they're really looking at it as a big test for Le Mans.
If this is a test, Viper got an A and qualified, bumping Corvette from the pole Friday afternoon. But Corvette clearly sees this as a head-to-head challenge. They are concerned about durability, about critical street stock components surviving the rigorous Rolex 24-hour test. But there will be that one defining moment when the Corvette crew will know this factory-supported effort has passed the test.
Absolutely. At 23 hours and 59 minutes, that's when I'll take a deep breath and I'll be thankful.
Well, right now the battle rages between the Dodge and the Corvettes. The Dodge leads. There's a leader pit stop. Alan McNish getting out. Whoops, a little bit of a problem getting that cushion out of the seat that the drivers used to adjust themselves to the car rather than the other way around. And when you've got a driver as diminutive, if you will, as Alan McNish, that makes it a little bit difficult to make a quick driver change when the next man in is taller. While we have a change in class leadership as the number 72 Ferrari goes by to take the lead.
Yeah, this car's fallen back to
72
third.
will be first. And
this car's fallen back to third, sitting in the pit lane. The car now ready to roll off. Alan McNish did about 1 hour 45 minutes in that car. They had quite a bit of full course yellow.
So we have a new driver. Didier Diradig is now behind the wheel of the number 7 car. 6 cars on the lead lap. All Can-Am machinery. The top 4 GT2 cars together as well.
The Rolex.
Welcome back to Daytona. Mad Max Pappas climbs out of the number 36 Ferrari. Stefan Johansson is climbing in with all of his years of Formula One experience as well as Indy cars. To Marty Reed.
yes, and this pit stop comes right on the heels of the team car, the 72 car. Freddie Leinhardt gets him into that one, and Johansson is quickly out of it. This was one of the best stops so far in the Can-Am division, guys.
Oops, someone got the pointy end going in the wrong direction there. Excess fuel burning at the exhaust pipe there. That shouldn't be a problem, but
it's not a problem until you get it, unless you don't get it fired up. If you don't get it fired up quickly, it's going to light that bodywork on fire. So he needs to get it fired up very quickly because that bodywork will burn. We've had a couple of cars off the road here. These are the 2 GT3 leaders following a Can-Am car here into, it must be very slick down there in that hairpin. Just gets a little wide of that apex and loops it, quite harmless. But then a Mazda GT3 car followed him in after that and center punched one of those cones. So you can see he's just a little wide there. And once you get out wide there, it gets very dirty. Gets those brakes locked up very quickly. No harm done.
And now we have yellow flags from the flag stand. Our 3rd full course caution. Riding with the GT3 Yokohama BMW. Boris said at the controls of the number 6 car leading the class.
And that position changed just while we were away at break. Kurt Wagner had been leading the number 6 car. And that position just recently changed. You can see he's only listed as a half-second back there.
In fact, the top 6 cars in class are all on the same lap. Meanwhile, our GTT leader, the number 19 Ford Mustang, is on its own lap. While the number 7 car back in the race lead. Let's go to Bill Weber.
With Alan McNish, and obviously a great run for you here in the first hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, it went pretty well. The first stint, to be honest, wasn't that good. We had a lot of push in the car, and when we changed tires, it became a lot better and a lot more balanced, and that was when I was able to push the Dyson cars. Obviously, it's a lot longer than 1 hour 45, though.
Obviously, you and James Weaver were very entertaining there early.
Oh, we like to entertain us Brits, you know that.
Yeah? Hey, you told me it was just an hour and 45-minute race. That's how you felt.
Well, when you get in there, it is a race, and if you can get a little bit of an advantage without putting the car at risk, then you obviously do it. And James was looking for that advantage, and so was I. But that's how the race, I think, is going to be all the way through, to be honest.
Were you surprised you got the start?
No. Should I have been?
I don't know. Obviously, Wayne wasn't feeling well, I heard.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant actually getting into second. No, yes, I was actually surprised. Wayne wasn't feeling very well the last couple of days, and he didn't drive yesterday. He drove this morning, and he felt it better that he stayed out the car a little bit. And I got the honour of driving the start in the Ferrari at the Daytona 24.
Okay, I wasn't picking on you.
That's all right. Thank you. You're bigger than me, remember?
Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to Marty with Mad Max.
Yeah, Max checking a couple of blisters that are already starting to rise on his right shifting hand. You said you had a moment out there a little bit earlier.
Yeah, you know, just before the first yellow flag, you know, a KTM car, you know, just span in front of me, Porsche, and they came back in the track. Was pretty hairy moment, but just the beginning of a 24-hour. But seems that people out there, they think this is a 2-hour race because they're pushing like a hell.
Well, what about this? Do you like this pace right now, or is it too fast?
I think it's pretty fast as a pace. You know, we're going to go our own pace, our own strategy. We're still a lot to go, and we're going to use our weapon when it's right.
Got to ask you, did you have anything to do with Jimmy Vasser coming to this race this year? Because you've been here before. In fact, you made your North American name here in '96.
You know, we talk a lot, me and Jimmy, about what it means for me, Daytona 24-hour, and the opportunity they gave me, you know, now to drive the Miller Lite car. So it's just a combination of things, you know. I think Jimmy enjoyed tradition as well, and this is one of the most traditional races in the world.
Oh, it's going to be fun watching these guys trot on through the day and night.
Mad Max will be driving for Bobby Rahal in the Miller Lite Reynard in the Kart FedEx Championship Series this year, doing battle with his good friend Jimmy Vasser. Out on the infield, the carnival is in full swing. There's a concert going on tonight. There's a food court out there. We're open all night long at Daytona International Speedway.
Hi, we're in Miami.
Welcome back live to Daytona. You see the sun getting low on the horizon there as the top 3 cars in the GT2 category have pitted. On board with the Dodge Viper, Tommy Archer being told to fire it up and get back out. Meanwhile, the number 2 Corvette has already gone back out onto the racetrack. And the number 4 sister Chevy Corvette has also come out. Pitted windshields, just a part of the challenge here at Daytona. Coming up, following our live coverage from here at Daytona, there's great college basketball action coming your way as number 2 Duke takes on NC State. Duke leads that series all time, 115-93, and has won the last 3 meetings in a row. Then at midnight Eastern time, it'll be Hawaii versus Fresno State in a big Western Athletic Conference shootout. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. There's a look at our leader in the number 7 car, Didier de Radigue from Belgium, a former motorcycle racer doing well on 4 wheels. As you take a look at the overall leaderboard, Stefan Johansson in the 2nd place Ferrari. Freddie Lienhard, who owns his car, is in 3rd place. Our new GT2 leader, John Paul Jr. Stay with us.
They are America's dreamers, builders, leaders. They are the future of America.
Time flies when you're having fun. Already into hour 3 of the 24-hour grind of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Bob Varsha along with Jeremy Dale, Bill Weber, and Marty Reed in the pit lane, as we will be tomorrow when we come back to you at 7 a.m. Eastern Time here on ESPN2 to take you all the way through the checkered flag. Now you're on board the number 50 car leading the GT2 category. Remember earlier they were having radio problems that prevented Tommy Archer from coming in and serving a black flag stop and go penalty. Marty Reed picks up the story.
Yeah, guys, I've checked with Q-tips. His ears are clean. He really can hear. It was a radio problem.
I think there was just a little bit of miscommunication. We got in the car and somehow something got tripped up, and they've checked with David. It's okay. So when we got here with the Viper, it's, in Europe, in FIA, you do not have to run a window net. And I think when they flipped the window net, my cord was caught in it. And so, unfortunately, I just couldn't talk for a while. But it was no big deal because they told me what fuel level I could go to, and they gave me a board. The only thing that was frustrating was they gave me a stop and go, but it wasn't for me, it was for the previous driver. So
yeah, well, but still it had to be served, and these guys were trying to get your attention. I mean, they were jumping up and down up here. They were trying to figure out. I thought for a second they were going to start ripping off their uniforms and doing something drastic to get you to come in before you got a double penalty.
Well, I'm glad they didn't moon me. It was, but it was pretty good. I mean, I saw him with the board here, and then they put my number up there, so I knew it was for me. But you know, when you're going 180 miles an hour and there's 4 cars in the group, I had no idea it was for me, and because I hadn't done anything wrong yet that I knew of anyway. And it turned out that when Olivier had passed somebody under a yellow in the first stint, I served his penalty. So
don't feel bad. A bunch of guys got caught in that deal.
It's earlier in the race. We got a long ways to go, and the Dodge is running real strong.
All right, guys.
I like Tommy Archer's I hadn't done anything wrong yet.
On board with Bill Donohue from Austin, Texas, the car owner of this Donohue Racing Ferrari 333 SP. He's got Doug Bundy, my old buddy from Gainesville, Georgia, Mike Davies from DeLand, Florida, and Paul Dallenbach. Yes, that Dallenbach family also on his driving lineup. The race leader through turn 1, and here's a pronunciation check. We're told it's pronounced Didier de Rodriguez. That's the way we'll call it. Once again, traffic building up as they head for the International Horseshoe. Giving a great look at these exotic cars to tens of thousands of fans crowded along the fences. Donohue running in the 12th spot. Let's go to the GT3 battle.
And this is the battle for the lead in GT3, the 23 car, which did qualify on the pole, and the number 6 car. Actually, it's not the lead. The 07 car has taken the lead on the pit stop, so this would be the battle for second. You can hear Tom Milner. You can hear Tom Milner talking to the driver there. And if these two cars maintain their reliability, I suspect they are going to be going back and forth like this all night long. Now this is where these GT3 cars can get into problems. See how he goes high there? And the Viper is up on the top wanting to get around. And they're having to go 3, sometimes 4 wide up on the banking. Look at that Viper go.
Keep in mind, the guys in the other classes have every right to run their own race, but they do need to keep their eyes open for faster cars from other classes coming up from behind.
It's very tough to go back to Tom Milner and tell him you got punted off the racetrack because you weren't looking in your mirrors.
There's the number 8 Can-Am car back in that group.
And this is back on board with Bill Donohue in the number 88 Ferrari. These guys right now sitting 12th overall, 2 laps down from the leaders on Pirelli tires. A long way to go here.
12th overall, 11th in class. The Dodge Viper that's leading the GT2 class is ahead of Bill Donohue. Stop and go for car number 2 for speeding in the pit lane. Breaking that 60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit means a stop and go.
Which is very unusual because I thought these Corvettes had an electronic speed limiter. That doesn't mean it's impossible to speed in pit lane, but it certainly helps. Much easier to speed in pit lane when you're doing it by RPM on the tachometer. But with an electronic limiter, it's quite a bit tougher. Probably you're bound to do it on the entry to pit lane. And we hear that it might have been John Paul Jr. that was on board when that infraction took place.
Looking out the front from that onboard camera, you saw that the pit exit is a very, very narrow track, just wide enough for a race car leaving the pit. You have to be very careful on cold tires. We've seen in previous years guys spinning the car and backing right into that Armco alongside the pit exit.
We've actually seen guys that come out of the pit lane and they understeer right into the guardrail and they just plow right into it. And this is almost as if that pit out was designed for the Daytona 200 and not the 24-hour race.
Daytona 200, of course, the all-world AMA Superbike race that'll be taking place at the opposite end of Daytona Speed Weeks coming up in March. And that's a race you'll see here on ESPN2 as well. To our police blotter for a moment, all stop and goes for passing under the yellow flag have now been served, we are told. Didier, our race-leading number 7 Ferrari, uses all of the track and then some through the infield. Shown more than 6.5 seconds ahead of the second-place car, the number 36 Ferrari.
There's a little opposite lock there that gives you an indication of how slick it is. And a lot of these teams will actually change tire compounds as they move into the nighttime. As it cools down, they'll go to a softer compound. There you see a good look at the interval back to the 36 car. They'll actually go to a softer compound as it gets dark and cooler to get more grip.
36 car second place in the hands of Stefan Johansson, looking for the third place car, the number 72
bit by the 20 car. That is a battle for third position.
Ford closes up on the Ferrari, under braking for this chicane.
And it's interesting, we have Ferraris running 1, 2, 3, and I think the Ford guys thought that that inlet restrictor that we had talked about at the top of the show would be clipping their wings a little bit, and at this stage anyway, it doesn't seem to have hurt them a whole lot.
Freddie Lienhardt in that red Ferrari, the car owner of a company that makes big industrial cabinets, the Lista company. That explains the sponsorship on the side of the car. A veteran sports car racer, however, and quite a good one.
And now the other Dyson car is coming to join the party here. There's the 16 car with James Weaver, rolls up behind the 20 car.
Andy Wallace driving the 20 right now, it appears, from those helmet colors.
Everyone tiptoeing through traffic.
It's Mauro Baldi in the 72. This could get interesting. Everybody minding their manners. Lake Lloyd in the background, from which the dirt was dug to build the 32-degree banking here at Daytona International Speedway.
And look at this. There's the pass for position. That is the pass for third.
Andy Wallace around Mauro Baldi. And the other Dyson car goes under Baldi in the red Ferrari. I wonder if there's a problem there.
That's very
interesting. Freddie Lienhardt. Beg your pardon.
So now the Dyson car is sitting third and fifth. Weaver here, always a demon on the brakes, decides to give that one up. Little bit surprising.
Bill Donohue keeping that 88 car out front. They pair off on the banking.
Well, Andy Wallace is going to try and get a bit of a tow here, and he certainly got that car pretty well placed. And if he can keep it there, he can pop it out as he goes down through the tri-oval and down into turn one. And there he goes. Actually, looks like Donohue let him go, because there goes the other Ferrari, and here comes James Weaver.
Lienhardt is through. That's the view from Bill Donohue's car. Looks like he's searching for a gear there as he goes down into one. So the order remains: Rodriguez, Johansson, Wallace, Lienhardt, and Weaver. Your top five. We'll be back to Daytona live. Live at Daytona in the final hour of our coverage before we leave you, only to return tomorrow at 7 a.m. to take you all the way through to the checkered flag. And in the top 10, we see one of the GT cars has broken in. Right there, David Donohue, whose father Mark won this race overall 30 years ago this weekend, has his Dodge Viper up into the number 10 spot ahead of a bunch of Can-Am cars.
And we talked about how we would expect to see these GT2 cars up in the top 10. And here we are a little over 2 hours into the race, and they've already broken in.
On board now with the number 4 factory Chevy Corvette, running a lap down to the class leader. The Viper runs 10th overall. This Corvette 13th, second in the GT2 class. To the overall leader, Didier de Rodriguez. Way up high in that Ferrari. Carrying maximum speed out of the chicane. Through NASCAR turns 3 and 4 into the tri-oval.
And he has stretched out a nice little lead right now, about 12 seconds, and we'll have a look at this gap. But the last time by start finish, it was 12 seconds on the 36 car, who's now coming under pressure from the 20 car. So those Dyson cars moving up, sitting third and fourth right now.
The top 8 Can-Am cars all running on the same lap. The GT2 leader is on a lap of his own. 3 GT2 cars running second, third, and fourth are together on the same lap. The top 4 GT3 class cars are all running on the same lap. And our leader in GTT, Ford Mustang, is running on a lap of his own, 6 laps down to the race-leading Ferrari. Those are the kind of speed and distance differentials that will develop through the day and into the night, and tomorrow when we return for the conclusion of this race. And much will change between now and then. It's been a dramatic but relatively incident-free race thus far.
Look at that. Ooh. Stefan Johansson with a little pinch there on Andy Wallace, and that's allowing James Weaver to tighten up that gap. And I'm surprised that he did that. It just wouldn't seem worthwhile to play those kinds of games at this point in this race. It's a little bit surprising. Although we saw James Weaver do it in the first hour out on the bank.
Oh, boy. You see the progress of the number 20 car in class and in the overall. Drop back a few places. But we've seen 3 full-course cautions. And the story is just beginning to unfold. Now, up on the banking, the Ford building speed, but now the Ferrari gets up in the rev range where the power is for those V12s.
Well, I'll tell you, Wallace got a good shot coming out of the chicane, and he's got a good toe. This is about as close as he's been through the trial. Well, tough to make up that kind of distance. Look at James Weaver giving his teammate something to look at in his mirrors.
Three great racers, Stefan Johansson, Andy Wallace, and James Weaver. Oh, Wallace right up on the gearbox.
Well, Johansson a little hot into the hairpin there. And luckily that Corvette, that's a privateer Corvette GT3 car kind of in the way on the way out of the corner, and that really helped Johansson. It looked like he had a run on him. Those Riley and Scott's very good. As I said earlier, they make very good downforce and they come off the corners. Look at how well Andy Wallace came off that corner. And boy, Stefan Johansson really having to drive very defensively.
Right down the middle of the road is Johansson in the red Ferrari. Let's see what line of attack the 2 Riley and Scott Fords try this time. The shadow's growing long now.
And this can be a very difficult time of day to drive because the sun getting very low in the sky. And at this point, you'd rather just, you know, that it was dark, because there's certain points on the racetrack, and we'll be able to look at some of those on our in-car cameras in the next 45 minutes or so. Some of those points on the racetrack, the visibility is really difficult because the sun gets low in the sky.
The visibility is not the reason that these cars have their headlights on. That is so the flash in the mirrors of slower cars ahead will catch the driver's attention and let them know somebody's coming up fast from behind.
And you can see Andy Wallace glancing up in his mirrors. He wants to know where James Weaver is. Down to, oh, there goes Andy Wallace, and he's going to stuff it in here. Not enough momentum there. Certainly has Stefan Johansson on the defensive right now. Classic case of a car that has good top end, but not as much low-speed grip up against a car with not as good top end, and much better low-speed grip, downforce, and braking ability. This is where we've seen the Riley and Scott really strong on the brakes into these hairpins.
1 little, 2 little, 3 little Can-Am cars battling through the infield. Now we've got more slow traffic up ahead. Let's see what Johansson and Wallace decide to do here.
This might really help Andy Wallace because Johansson can't get to the throttle and use all the horsepower that the Ferrari has.
Keep an eye on this battle as the Ferrari uses legs to pull out just a bit ahead of the Fords. Meanwhile, our leader is up the road, the number 7 car. There's Didier de Rodriguez through the chicane. He's got traffic to deal with too. Big crowd on hand here at Daytona as the sun gets low, the night is ahead, and then the daylight and the run to the finish of the Rolex 24. We'll be right back.
Hey, we're the McKenzie brothers, eh? And we're here to stop a heinous crime.
Yeah, they're sending Molson Canadians south of the border. Instead of our house, we're...
Back in 1959, Rolex presented Big Bill France. Bill France Sr. with a sundial to commemorate the opening of the then new Daytona International Speedway. And since then, it has played host to one of the world's great sports car classics, the Rolex 24, now in its 37th running. And we'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 a.m. Pacific, to take you through all the way to the finish and meet the winners. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. We have about 40 minutes of live coverage remaining. There's a number 88 car running very slow in the hands of its owner, Bill Donohue, who straight-lined that chicane. Now he looks like he's coming back up to speed. I wonder if he just missed his braking for the chicane.
Well, he might have. And under certain circumstances, you can actually lose a lap that you straight line the chicane. But the bigger story here is that the 16 car, James Weaver, is catching the leader.
While we're away at break, both Andy Wallace and James Weaver went by Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari, dropping Johansson to 4th. And as you can see, the Dyson teammates are now closing up on Didier de Rodriguez for the race lead. Oh, and lots of slower cars up ahead.
This is what James Weaver likes, opportunity. And there's the 19 car. The 19 car is our leader in GTT, way back in 34th overall, but they are the leader as those two Can-Am cars go flying by.
A Ford Mustang in the hands of Les Dillon. Oh,
look at that. Oh, my. The 7 car completely gets balked there, and this is Weaver's chance. We know how good on the brakes he is. Look at it.
Here it comes. Whoa! A slashing move from James Weaver, pole sitter for this Rolex 24. None of that messing around, waving at the mirrors, boy. I'm coming by.
I'll tell you what, James Weaver drives with commitment, and that is a classic James Weaver move. Now, the Ferrari should have some legs on the straightaway here, and look at that car. He's getting closer.
Across the line they come.
That's what I love about the way James Weaver drives. It's decisive. He doesn't hold back. He decides he's going to make the move, and he goes for it. They come up to lap one of the Corvettes. There's Rob Dyson, who seems reasonably relaxed. Bill?
Yeah, see, he has done his first driving stint. We'll be going back in the car probably in a couple of hours. But right now, he's certainly just mentally and physically preparing for this 24-hour endurance race. I wouldn't tell him how his cars are doing, but I don't want to disturb him.
If you get a massage, you're a dead man.
Well, guys, down at the other end of the pits, an update on the 88 car. You saw Donohue going through the chicane. He did overshoot it, and so as not to get a penalty, he slowed down deliberately. So there is nothing wrong with the car. He's back up to speed.
Good tactical move by Bill Donohue. No competitive advantage gained. No need for a penalty. Wonderful cars, these Ferraris. Meanwhile, back to the lead, James Weaver and Didier de Rodriguez. James Weaver said something interesting this weekend. He was asked about journalists about being a reigning USRRC driving champion. Of course, sports car racing is not at the level of, say, Winston Cup or open-wheeled racing. And he was asked whether or not, oh, contact on the infield.
And we were looking at the battle there for 7th between the number 3 and the number 8 car. This car was being lapped and wondering, what did I do wrong?
Number 15, that's O'Reilly and Scott Ford, being shared by Didier Andre, Ross Bentley, who is the reigning GT3 driving champion, Chris Bingham and Frank Freon.
And he's left some room, you can see it, but that was a real hard body slam there. And I got to wonder about that 8 car, if we're not going to have some alignment problems on that car.
Take another look from another angle. Here comes the number 8.
And he just gets pinched down.
Simple collision.
And the 8 car had really made a commitment to go through there. It's quite possible whoever's in the 15 car, I don't recognize that helmet, just didn't know the car was there. We think it's Bingham in that car, in the 15 car.
Chris Bingham from Bellevue, Washington. The number 8 car is another Riley and Scott Ford, being shared by Henry Camferdam, Duncan Dayton, and Scott Schubach, former driving champion in the series.
And I believe they added Eliseo Salazar to that driver lineup.
That's right.
And I think Salazar started the car, so he's probably not in the car right now. We haven't had a good look at the 8 car. So we'll have to see if the 15 car heads for pit lane. You can certainly see the front radiator there, the screen across the front, completely plugged up with grass. So if that car doesn't go to the pit lane, it is going to overheat very quickly.
This Bingham has experience. He drove in GT3 a couple of years ago. Now there is the Robinson car. That's George Robinson climbing out. He's been in that car since the green flag. He'll turn that Riley and Scott with Chevy power over to one of his co-drivers. Getting back to my story about James Weaver being asked about not getting the riches and the publicity that perhaps a stock car or open wheel champion might get. He said, I like that just fine. A simple pat on the back from the team, a nice dinner. I mean, a big check would be nice, but...
Well, it never hurts. But you know what? James Weaver is in his 13th year with the Dyson team, with Rob Dyson. That's just a phenomenal relationship. And they've got a lot of history together, and I think they really work well together.
Jack Baldwin from Marietta, Georgia, climbing in. Whoop, a spinner up on the 31-degree banking just at the entrance to NASCAR Turn 1. The number 87 car is a Chevy Camaro in the GTT category. Looks like that car might have escaped. Down to Bill Weber.
No massage for Andy Wallace. He continues his stint in the 20 car. They get 4 Goodyear green or sticker tires and fuel. Slide adjustment at the back of the car. They clean the grill, and they give Andy Wallace the green light to continue on in this 24-hour endurance test.
Andy Wallace from England. He has Le Mans victories on his resume, victories here at Daytona. It all seems to come so easy to him. His teammate James Weaver, fellow Englishman, we should point out. Carrying on through the chicane. Quick look in the mirrors.
And don't forget, this was the first team to ever run a Riley and Scott chassis. And they've really spent the most time with these cars, and they know them better than anyone else.
Off the banking and into the tri-oval. Race leader James Weaver. A long way still to go here at the Rolex 24. We'll be here all night to bring you the action when we return to the air at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Back live at Daytona as the Rolex 24 continues. James Weaver with the Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford out front by a comfortable 4.5 seconds now over the second place Ferrari in the hands of Didier Diradi. Now, moments ago, we saw one of the GTT class Chevy Camaros spin on the entrance to the banking at NASCAR 1. Let's take a ride along the class-leading BMW.
And that's P.D. Cunningham in that car, the number 6 BMW. Look at this as we go to slow motion here. Look at where that car is. And he's just hoping that car's still rolling up the banking and hasn't stopped and is rolling back down.
If he'd done one of those Days of Thunder, go for the middle of the cloud jobs, that would have been tough. Now on board with the GT2 class leader, David Donohue in the Dodge Viper. Here comes the second place Can-Am.
Well, little traffic there, and he gets in a little bit hot, goes to power and loops it. No harm done, lost a bit of time. And we understand we're under full course caution here.
We are indeed. The flags waved from the flag stand. Not sure the reason why just now as you look at David Donohue, son of the great Mark Donohue, a winner of this race. Once again, the yellow flies in the third hour of the Rolex 24. There's the GT2 class standings. David Donohue up front, Andy Pilgrim, and John Paul Jr. in those two factory Chevy Corvettes running second and third. A Porsche in fourth. We'll be back. Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing. This is the beginning of Speed Weeks, and we'll have it covered for you on both ESPN and ESPN2 between February 3rd all the way to the 13th, including daily updates, Winston Cup and Busch Series practice and qualifying, the Bud Shootout qualifier, the ARCA 200, the Goodies Dash Series race, IROC 23, and much more. Every day, something for you from Daytona on ESPN and ESPN2. And NASCAR Today on the morning. of the granddaddy of all stock car races, the Daytona 500. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Our 5th full course caution of the day is due to debris on the racetrack, we are told. We'll take a break. As soon as they get it cleaned up, we'll be back underway live at the greatest sports car race in North America, the Rolex 24, on a beautiful day at Daytona.
The Rolex 24 at Daytona, America's toughest sports car race. At the Daytona International Speedway, drivers like 5-time champion Hurley Haywood race 24 hours through the heat of day and dark of night. Hurley and his Rolex are up to the rugged demands of this legendary race. Rolex, the choice of champions.
Welcome back to Daytona. 2.5 hours into the Rolex 24. The race leader, James Weaver, on pit road. He will do his second stint, getting 4 Goodyear sticker tires. They clean the grill, make an adjustment on the backside, and we'll take Weaver back out onto the racetrack to continue his adventures here at Daytona.
And an adventure it has been. James Weaver heads out. Let's go elsewhere in the pit lane. Here's Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, let's update you on the 50. David Donohue, remember that spin? Well, it may be mechanically induced. They are on the radio talking about either a clutch problem or a gearbox problem. If that's true, we'll be stationed right here as the 50 is still out there right now, but they are concerned about something, either the clutch or the gearbox.
David Donohue holding a 1-lap lead in class over one of these cars. This is the number 4 Chevy Corvette. This is actually second in class, 13th overall, a lap down to the class leader, 3 laps down to the overall race leader. Elsewhere in the pit lane, there's the number 72 Ferrari. Freddie Lanehart, the car owner, behind the wheel, tosses out his drink bottle. He'll take another load of fuel and fresh tires. Whoa, and almost down on the infield grass is the number 2 Chevy Corvette, running 3rd in the GT2 category. Let's get a little crowded on that pit lane. Whoops, and they overshot just a little bit as he tried to get in around its sister car. The number 8 car that was involved in a collision on the infield earlier is in. Marty Reed is there.
Yes, and Henry Camperdam, the driver, was on board at the time, is climbing out. Scott Schubach is getting in. They're looking at the damage on the right side. It surprisingly held up well, guys, especially in the right front corner. It's a little loose on the under tray, but not enough for them to change the nose piece on this car. We can tell you that some of the expletives used during the contact are not permissible on the air.
Well, they'd better watch their language. That is one of the few, perhaps the only team in the pit lane with a female race engineer. From Italy, Rossella Manfremato is engineering Scott Schubach, Henry Camperdam, and the team. Here's a look at our GTT standings. These are tube frame race cars similar to the SCCA Trans Am cars, and the least expensive option to race at the Rolex 24. 7 cars turned out this year. Someone will go to victory lane, pick up a nice check for their effort. Ford Mustang leading the way. The number 19 car was driven here last year by Mike Borkowski, Robbie Buell, and kart FedEx driver Tony Kanaan. This year it is here. It did not win the pole in its class. Everyone expected it to. It's the car right there to the left of your screen, driven by Les Delano, Kyle McIntyre, Andy Petery, and Gary Stewart. Once again, the Corvette pace car comes off, and with it, the number 7 Ferrari as we go green.
And very peculiar strategy there. The lead car waits until the green to pit. Very peculiar strategy.
Why would you do that? Pitting under green.
Well, they may have a reason. There may be something we don't know about, but it is very peculiar strategy.
Maybe he suddenly thought he had picked up a puncture or something. New tires all around. Didier de Redigas from Belgium, a former motorcycle racer, behind the wheel. Now looks like they've taken the steering wheel off. Maybe a dash problem.
79.9.
Now he's reading out reading out the fuel reading on the fuel meter and then resetting it back to 0 so they know how much fuel the car burned during that stint. But yeah, some type of problem with that car.
The steering wheel goes on the ground.
Wayne, can you hear me?
See the air restrictor in the air box behind the driver's head.
And you see this.
Can you hear? Can you talk?
Did you see that piece of tubing there? That is a piece of tubing, surgical tubing.
In a situation like that, you must use your judgment and pit, okay?
That's a piece of surgical tubing they use to haul the seatbelt back, so when they do driver changes, the seatbelt doesn't fall down into the seat.
The car anyway. Wonderful, wonderful.
You heard the team manager telling him, Didier, you have to use your judgment in those situations, which I assume means, why in the world did you pit then? And you heard De Rodriguez say, I'm sorry.
And unfortunately, he has lost almost a lap. The leaders now, the 16 and 20 cars are up front.
Drop back to 6th place in the overall and in the Can-Am class. Picking up the battle for 3rd, the number 36 Ferrari and the number 72 machine up high on the 31-degree banking. Stefan Johansson in the foreground, Freddie Leinhardt chasing him.
Well, Freddie should try and hang there and get a bit of an education here from Stefan. Look at Stefan getting held up there by those GT3 cars. And you never know where those guys are going to go.
Years ago, Keke Rosberg, former Formula One champion, was asked why he didn't do as many of his colleagues did and drive in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Keke thought about it for a minute and said, I can't think of 300 other drivers in the world I'd feel safe at top speed at the Mulsanne Straight in the dark and the rain with. Which I thought summed it up probably pretty accurately.
That is a very reasonable answer.
Speaking of which, our weather forecast for this weekend has sort of deteriorated since we got here earlier this week. And now they are calling for a 60% chance of the R word tomorrow, Sunday. And if it rains, boy, will that change the complexion of the race. The GTT leader being passed by the GT3 class leader. Right there is the number 19 Ford Mustang, the GTT class leader.
You can see that car with a 5-liter V8 in it certainly gets down the straightaways pretty well. And as they go down the back straightaway into the chicane, you may see this Mustang pop out, but he certainly won't challenge the BMW on the brakes going into the chicane. There's one of the Corvettes, one of the GT2 cars, comes up the inside. That's a GT2 car. So you can see the clear difference in top speeds there on the GT2 car and the GT3 car and the GTT car.
Peter Cunningham at the controls of this Yokohama shot prototype technology group, BMW M3. That team started with the BMWs, as most factory-assisted teams do, struggling a little bit, trying to develop a race car for a 24-hour race. They shaped it into an absolute killer race car, going for their 4th consecutive endurance victory. 1-2 finishes up and down the schedule. A tremendous success as you look at the GT3 leaderboard.
And that 17 car that sits in 4th overall, that's not a factory car, nor is the 54 car. There are other M3s. There are 3 other M3s in the field, only 2 factory cars, 3 privateer cars, still seriously outnumbered by those 911s.
Down to that one car after the sister car was parked in the garage with problems for Bill Auberlen. Back on board with Didier de Rodriguez. Let's get more on that story with Bill Weber.
Well, Bob, they desperately wanted Didier to pit under that caution. The only problem was his radio was not working, so they had virtually every crew person and every support person out on pit road waving to get his attention, to get him to come on the pit road. He didn't see it until they got the one to go, and that's why he pitted right then when the green flag came out. They needed to get him on the pit road, but he couldn't hear him on the radio, so they got their pit stop in, they got their radio working, they got an apology, they lost a lot of track position.
Ooh, tire smoke from the Corvette, the GT3 Corvette, not the factory car, just ahead of the Ferrari.
Man, locking it up there into the hairpin. Now, a lot of these teams do run, and there is a specific area on the racetrack in the infield that is a pit signal area where the teams can have a pit signal board so that if they do have a radio problem, they can get messages to the driver. And I'm surprised that this team isn't using that as a backup and that they don't have someone out there on the signal board to signal him in case they have a radio go down.
Number 88 Ferrari of Bill Donohue being passed by race leader James Weaver. 88 shown in 12th place as he was earlier. Now 3 laps down. James Weaver continues on his way. He's expanding this lead. Second place car is his teammate Andy Wallace in the 20, but he is 15 seconds behind the race leader. 76 laps complete, but remember, this is a timed race for 24 hours. The number of laps is not a concern. Pounding through the chicane, taking a beating. We have about 15 minutes of live coverage remaining before we break away and begin recording this race to bring you all the highlights tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. here on ESPN2. Weaver and Wallace, the Dyson teammates out front. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Rolex 24 from Daytona is being brought to you by Yokohama Tire Corporation. Turn on technology with Yokohama tires. And by the new Dodge. It's about change. Live at Daytona International Speedway, the sun continues to drop toward the horizon, but the race will go on into and through the night and through tomorrow to 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Sunday afternoon, at the conclusion of the Rolex 24. There's our race leader, James Weaver, working the traffic. It's been a frantic race thus far. What happened to the 36 as a car spun in front of him just moments ago? Another Can-Am car went around.
And that was the 29 car. And while we're talking about the 36 had to make a stop in the pit lane because on the last pit stop, Stefan Johansson came in while the pits were closed. Didn't wait for the pits to be open, so he had to make a stop and go.
That's pit game just at the same place on the track where David Donohue spun the class-leading Dodge Viper GT2 a few laps ago. James Weaver, the reigning USRRC driving champion. He's been in this car since the initial green flag. And the number 3 car, in 7th place overall, has gone a lap down for the first time today. So 6 cars remain on the lead lap. Here's Bill Weber.
So far, it's been a great day for Dyson Racing. When we go to the evening hours, though, you guys are a little concerned with how your tires will behave in the darkness.
Yeah, we brought 3 different sets of Goodyear, 3 different compounds down here, knowing that what we have to run in this 82-degree heat is going to be vastly different from tonight when it probably goes into the upper 40s, low 50s. We've tried 3 different compounds, like I said. Right now, what they're doing is they're trying to run 3 stints on 1 set of tires. Rob Dyson, unfortunately, had the not so good a pleasure of running on the 3rd set, and it was real loose for him. So Stu Hayner and I are going to get in and do most of the night driving, I think. We'll soften the tire compound up quite a bit. The construction's also different, hoping to make grip at night and not a lot of heat.
It takes a few laps for those tires to get that grip, and you have to be very cautious.
Well, it's the worst thing that can you imagine. I mean, you put the tires on, and for 3 laps, it is just like being on marbles, and you can idle into a spin. The worst corner seems to be turn 3. You just turn in, and it doesn't want to turn, and as soon as it starts to turn, it wants to turn around. And in our practice, we had a lot of trouble there. So for 3 laps, you just hold your breath.
Just briefly, on the lights, how about that?
The lights are fantastic. They're really good. When we first came for the test, the lights all the way around, it wasn't a great big advantage because the infield was still dark. 2 really bad places. That high-speed left-hand kink was like going into a black hole. And if there was something in it solid, you were in big trouble. And then for the bus stop chicane, again, same thing. Since that test, they put in new lights, 16 new lights on the inside. Wonderful. I'm really actually looking forward to tonight.
One more question. Leaving pit road on those cold tires, that can be perilous.
you can crash, and it's been done several times leaving pit road. You see the skid marks going in the guardrail all the time. You can't believe how cautious you have to be. And then you're entering the racetrack with a very lame car against 70 cars that aren't so lame. So you really, really, for 2 or 3 laps, you just hold your breath and try to stay on the road.
Good luck.
Thank you much.
Dorsey Schrader, always good to see him. Here's a look at our GT3 category. Peter Cunningham leading the way with the defending champions from PTG and their BMW M3s. Kurt Wagner runs second. Third place, Porsche 911. And then another BMW in fourth place. All of the BMWs in this field, including the 2 privateer machines, come from the PTG shops in Virginia. You ride with Peter Cunningham. Second place car in class, the number 23. The Kurt Wagner Porsche. That car started on pole in this class. And the third place car in class, the number 68 Porsche 911 for the Racers Group. Kevin Buckler, Michael Conti, Nick Holt, and Bruno Lambert. All West Coast based. All driving here as they have before in the Rolex 24, running in third place. And all of those cars are on the same lap, as is the fourth place car in class. The number 17 BMW M3 for Shane Lewis, Bob Mazzucola, Randy Colt, Mark Recaro.
Whoa, actually missed the turn in there, got in hot, and almost took it off into the grass. Sorry to interrupt, Bob.
That's Michael Conti driving. Never a dull moment around here.
I'll tell you, it's hard down in that chicane because the references aren't great. You're going so fast, the road is so wide, and it's very easy to miss your braking point down there. And he just gets it in hot, locks that inside front tire very wide of that first apex, and does a great job to keep it on the racetrack.
Nice car control from Michael Conti from Seattle, Washington. Meanwhile, back to Peter Cunningham in the class-leading car as some of the Can-Ams go by. Let's get more from Marty Reed.
Yeah, guys, after Peter Cunningham comes out of the car, Hans Stuck will move over from the 10 car and will be added to the team. So that's going to bolster their driving efforts quite a bit, I'm sure. We can put a period on the 10 car. They are going to try and get it back into the race. They are changing cylinder heads as we speak back in the garage area.
There is Tom Milner, who's already seen one of his 2 cars sent to the garage. Well, that body language doesn't say much good as he watches Peter Cunningham in the remaining M3 out there leading the class right now. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll get you updated on the other 3 classes in competition: GT3, GTT, and the Can-Am class. As I mentioned, Don Whittington, Dale Whittington, Danny Sullivan, and Hurley Haywood have gone a lap down. Time waits for no man or woman or racing team. Time can be your friend or your enemy. Time is the focus of the 24-hour sports car racing classic, known throughout the world as the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Into the darkness and then into the dawn tomorrow. The race will go on. Our coverage has about another 4.5 minutes to go. Then we'll keep track of all of the action and show you the highlights when we come back on the air at 7 a.m. tomorrow to take you through the finish. Coming up next on ESPN, number 2 Duke versus NC State at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And at midnight tonight Eastern Time, Hawaii versus Fresno State. Great NCAA basketball coming your way. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Right now, fluffy clouds overhead, the sun getting low. But the report is that there is rain in our future before this 24-hour race is run. There are the overall standings. The GT2 class leader, the Dodge Viper, with David Donohue at the controls, runs in the number 10 position as we come up on 21 hours to go. The GT3 class leading BMW M3 with Peter Cunningham at the controls. The number 6 car runs in 17th place. There you see the GT2 and 3 class contenders battling in 21st through 30th place. Very little attrition thus far in this race, surprisingly so, but that's been the story all week. The preparation level for these cars and teams has been phenomenal this year. Our GTT class leader runs the Ford Mustang, number 19, in 31st place overall. A phenomenal early race performance for that team to be up at mid-pack. Don't forget our live coverage at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific, right through the 1 p.m. Eastern time checkered flag for this race. And then we will meet the winners. Bill Auberlen, who led the class in his BMW M3, now shown in 70th position and has not yet returned, if in fact the car ever will.
And what's critical about that is that under new rules, technically Bill Auberlen is not allowed to step into that number 6 car. They're going to put Hen Stuck in that car, but Bill Auberlen is done.
Let's get some final thoughts from our pit reporters, beginning with Marty Reed.
Well, guys, the two things that struck me so far as we approach the 3-hour mark is the durability so far of the Corvette. You know, first race, you'd expect it to have a problem. And the flip side of the coin, the number 10 BMW with a cylinder head problem. They're back in the garage. A car that was bulletproof last year having problems. But then again, that's why we run the race, and that's why the nighttime is going to be so interesting. Let's go to Bill Weber.
Marty, as you know, in Can-Am, it's a classic auto racing battle, Ford against Ferrari. The last 2 years when this race is over, tears here on pit road, but they were tears of joy. 2 years ago was for Rob Dyson as he got to go to victory lane. Last year, Dr. Moretti finally conquered the Rolex 24 and then retired. There will be plenty of tears shed overnight here tonight. Those are by teams that will fail to finish. Who will share the tears of joy tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see. And what big factor could be these tires? Will we need them? And who will be the best on these rain tires?
Don't forget, we'll be coming your way at 7 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow here on ESPN2. And the basketball, I mentioned earlier, ESPN, that basketball doubleheader is coming up next here on ESPN2. Jeremy Dale, your thoughts?
Well, now's when the fun starts. Let's get through the night. And the nighttime here is so long, it just feels like such a grind. It is so hard on the cars, on the drivers, and on the crews. And I just can't wait to get back here tomorrow morning and see who is running.
Every individual in the pit lane and in the garages and in the motorhomes will have a story to tell when this one is over, and we'll have those stories for you tomorrow. Don't forget, coming up next, number 2 Duke versus NC State on ESPN2, and then Hawaii versus Fresno State at midnight. Be sure to join us tomorrow for one of the great events in sports, the Rolex 24, the final 6 hours. I'm Bob Barsha for Jeremy Dale, Bill Weber, and Marty Reed. See you tomorrow. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com.